Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
It says that my name is Bridget. It says that you can't see me because the host has blocked my video. You don't even know what I look like before you block me.
Okay, we're blocked.
Everyone's video is
let's-
blocked except for when they're in their hearing about their event. And everyone's microphone is blocked except for when their hearing comes up or I ask for public comment.
Okay. Seems like everything's ready. Okay, hello everyone. This is Chuck Tirone, the Reading Conservation Administrator, consistent with the governor's orders superseding certain provisions of the open meeting law and allow us to adhere to social distancing requirements during this COVID-19 crisis. This Town of Reading Conservation Commission meeting is being held virtually via Zoom for audio and video participation, Conservation Commission, applicants, their representatives, and the public. During this meeting, myself or the Conservation Commission Chair will unmute commissioners, applicants, and representatives and members of the public individually as needed. During the commission meeting, the chair will be the only one to permit sharing of video. These controls are in place to ensure that tonight's meeting is safe and effective. At this time, Chair Moore will conduct a roll call vote to confirm that all members are present and that they can hear.
Okay, please respond when I call your name, and this will be the order in which we do our voting tonight. Brian.
Brian Bowe, Vice Chair, present.
John.
John Sullivan, member present.
Carl.
Carl Ciccone, member present.
And Martha Moore, Chair, is present. We have one member absent today. He is Andrew Dribbin. And we have openings on the commission for 2 more members if we ever get any applicants. Back to you, Chuck.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Also be aware that other folks may be able to see you. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All material for this meeting are available on the Conservation Division site, and I recommend that commission members and the public follow the agenda as posted on the Town of Reading webpage unless otherwise noted. However, because this meeting is being conducted remotely, I advise that applicants in particular that the commission cannot discuss or consider documents which were not previously posted. Information may, however, be presented orally. Similarly, members of the public are encouraged to provide written comments, but should understand that not all participants nor the commission members will be able to see any written comments during the course of this meeting. Before we get started, at tonight's agenda, I'm going to cover some ground rules for safe and effective and clear conduct of our business to ensure accurate meeting minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. After the commissioners have made their remarks and these remarks have been addressed by the applicant, the chair will afford the public comment as follows. The chair will first ask for a list of members of the public who wish to speak to identify themselves by name. Once the chair has a list of public commentators, the chair will call on each one by name and afford them 4 minutes for any comment. The applicant may be requested to respond to the chair or by the Conservation Administrator. After the public comment, the chair will once again go down the list of commissioners, inviting each one by name to provide any further comment, questions, or motions. Please hold off until your name is called. Finally, each vote taken during the course of this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. That's all I have. Back to you, Chair Moore.
All right. The first item on the agenda is 0 Small Lane, Assessors Map 40 and 41, Lot 153 and 155 and 29, DEP file number 270-0748. It has been continued to January 11th, or do we need to vote on that tonight?
We need to vote.
Okay, can I have a motion to continue this to January 11th at the applicant's request? Brian, you're muted if you're moving.
Yes, I was moving, at least my mouth was. This is Brian. I make a motion to continue this hearing to the next meeting.
This is John, I'll second.
Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Carl Sacconi in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay, so that's been continued. 550 West Street, Assessors Map 25, Lot 2, DEP file number 270-0759. Also the applicant has requested to continue to January 11th. Can I have a motion for that?
This is Brian. I'll make a motion to continue at 550 West Street to the next meeting.
This is John, I'll second.
Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Carl Sacconi in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay, our next hearing is about Birch Meadow Drive. I'll read the blurb while Chuck admits the people relevant to the Birch Meadow Drive project. Open the public hearing on a notice of intent filed by Ryan Percival pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant proposes to construct an ADA walkway across the high school site and paving of an existing gravel parking lot with new stormwater management controls. Portions of the work are within the buffer zones to a bordering vegetated wetland. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at the Town Hall Conservation Office and on the Conservation Division page under the project by year. Assessors Map 33, Lot 57, DEP file number has not yet been issued. And good, thank you for muting that person. Okay, we have no DEP file number yet, Chuck?
Yeah, so when you're letting people in, you're forgetting to mute them.
So, sorry.
Just a comment. So let me just let Steve in, and he can let me know who is the rest on his team. Steve Chrisofelli. Okay, Steve's here, and
thanks, Chuck. Meg Basinski, if you can let her in as well.
sure thing. Okay, Meg, you're all set. I was looking for Jenna before. Is she
Yeah,
on the site?
Yep.
Didn't see her. Just go through here.
Okay, so confirm that we do not yet have a DEP file number.
Yeah, so I don't even see this posted on the DEP website. That might be something you want to look into tomorrow or next week. I could send you a contact number, but it's pretty easy just to reach out to DEP.
Yeah, I can reach out to them, Chuck. I'll give them a call in the morning.
Okay, so I believe that you guys are going to make a presentation briefly explaining your project, and we'll have a chance to discuss it and ask questions, but we will need to continue to the next meeting if we haven't got a DEP file number yet after our chance to have a discussion tonight.
Sure, and if anyone else is with you tonight, I let Jenna in. At this point where you're giving the presentation, just let me know. But when we're taking comments from the public, we just use the raise hand function and allow you to speak at that time.
Okay.
So is there anyone else, Steve, or are you good? Just you, Meg, and Jenna?
I believe that's it.
Okay, great. Take it away.
Great. Thank you, members of the board. Tonight, so I'm Steve Chrisofelli, landscape architect. With me is Meg Basinski, our principal civil engineer. We're Activitas design firm out of Deb. I'll run through kind of the design, and then Meg can touch upon stormwater and utility aspect, and then we can take questions. So here is the Imagination Station portion of the site, which is, we're proposing realigning the parking lot, creating a more structured lot and safer with accessibility, landscape improvements, lighting, and I'll let Meg talk to stormwater on that, but I'm just gonna go over design on the walkway too quick. So this walkway, what we're calling the central spine, is proposed as a 10-foot wide paved path connecting the high school to Birch Meadow Drive. There's a building, a restroom pavilion, lacrosse wall that's out of the buffer zone. So what we're really looking at here tonight is this portion of the walkway. There's a couple spots where it touches the 35-foot buffer. As part of this, we're really keeping grades the same, loaming and seeding what's disturbed. I know when I walked the site with you guys on Monday, we did speak about some other potential mitigation items related to where this daylights. Am I missing anything, Meg?
No, I think we can jump into to stormwater. So what we have here is a vegetated wetland, and you can see that's the inner white line. We're showing that yellow line as the 35-foot buffer, so that's your 25-foot zone of natural vegetation plus the 10-foot offset for your regs, and then that pink line that you see is the 100-foot wetland buffer. I also show on there the orange line that's kind of squiggly going down the page. We wanted to represent what the existing edge of vegetation is adjacent to that wetland, because that's important for, what is that existing natural buffer. In the existing condition, the water stormwater runoff flows kind of page southeast, and then eventually goes right into that wetland area. There's not a lot of, there's certainly no detention. There's not a lot of treatment. It is a pretty hard packed surface, so pretty much impervious. So, we're trying to improve that situation and collect that water and actually treat it, recharge it a bit, and then send the excess, back to that wetlands, meeting, rates and volumes. Steve, why don't you go to the grading utility plan if you can? That, good, yeah, perfect. Okay, so as you can see in the plan here, we're kind of using two collection areas. We're trying to use some low impact design methods. So you can see there's the majority kind of the, if you look to the left side of your page, that water flows to that inner island area. Originally, we were trying to get more treatment as part of that inner island area, but there's really just not a lot of space. So it ends up being a bit more of a collection area with a deep sump catch basin to start off our treatment train for that water. Kind of page north, the runoff from that majority of that area actually flows to the right towards, you can see those dash lines that lead down to a kind of a rain garden and infiltration area. And we have some room there to treat the water running through both a kind of a stone diaphragm and in grass. And then moving into a leaching basin, you can see that LB1, and then whatever is not able to leach would actually kind of overtop the leaching basin and move towards that infiltration area. And so that using that treatment train from both areas allows us to meet the the 80% TSS requirements for removal. That area that you see kind of page north, right before outletting towards Birch Meadow Drive, what we're doing is we have, that's essentially a rain garden and infiltration basin. So water runoff is able to move into there, collect, infiltrate down. Whatever the soils cannot handle will actually move out into the subdrains. And those are those kind of the dashed dot lines that you see. Those are subdrains down below. They tie back into that catch basin, and then that ties into the existing drainage infrastructure in Birch Meadow Road. We looked at a couple options here just to kind of give you a little bit of background. We looked at, do we tie into the road? Because really it's almost making a little bit of a loop, right? It's going to tie into that catch basin. It's going to go to the manhole that's over by the wetland area in Birch Meadow, and then go back into the wetland area. We did look at whether we just allow it to overtop and kind of use a weir type of design, but we didn't want that runoff flowing over the gravel path that's between the infiltration basin and the wetland, just because it's going to cause erosion. And then we thought a little bit more, do we put a flared end section or something like that closer to the wetland? But we're so close and we have some natural vegetation that it would just cause more disturbance. So from a design perspective, that's where we ended up tying into the road, even though it's kind of making a U-loop. Okay. You can see, I didn't talk down below, kind of page south, the accessible walkway that leads towards the track and field. We are collecting that into an area drain. That's runoff from those pathways. So all the impervious area, to the extent practicable, is being collected and sent to the deep sump catch basin, and then as well towards the infiltration area. So we are able to collect runoff from almost all of the impervious asphalt that we're adding in this area. There's a small portion just kind of where we tie into that existing pathway near the entrance to the track that just kind of flows naturally, a little bit towards the track. And there's a catch basin, I believe, in that existing area that does the same thing. That's kind of all the stormwater here. So we are meeting, rates and volumes as desired and as per the regulations. I think we are meeting all the requirements of the stormwater handbook. In terms of mitigation and the notice of intent aspect, we're not working within the resource area. I did send last night, and Chuck, I don't know, just let me know if you received it, but we did send the request for variance. I had asked for relief as part of the NOI. I apologize for that. So I did try to formally request the variance for not meeting the 25 plus the 10-foot offset for some of these things, specifically for that gravel walkway. And Steve, if you can just kind of point out where that gravel walk is. I believe currently that's a little bit of a cut through anyways. It's kind of a natural spot for that accessible route coming off of Birch Meadow Drive. There's a crosswalk, not shown on this plan, but very close by, that connects over across the street. So this location, while it is close to that bordering vegetated wetland, as you can see, it's kind of the spot that makes the most sense. And what I liked about that is it keeps our infiltration area and our treatment area kind of buffered from the wetland area. So that pathway is almost a little bit of a dam, more or less. That pathway does flow backwards towards the infiltration area. So we're kind of dammed there. We're keeping our infiltration area as far away as possible, trying to use LID design criteria. And that's why it ends up being closer to the wetlands than perhaps we would have, typically liked. The vegetation in that area, remember that orange line that you saw before, and you can see in the existing tree line, for the most part, that walkway is within already disturbed area, maintained lawn. That's just beyond that gravel parking lot that's there now. There's one little spot. You can kind of see it near the electric charging stations where that kind of, brush wooded area does jut out a bit. And so we would have to remove some of the brush. I don't think we have to remove trees, but Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, from that specific area. I know we have a little bit more in the actual parking lot that we are moving some wooded area, but it's actually displaced from the zone of natural vegetation adjacent to the BVW. All right. I should say, mitigation here, obviously we're going to have, straw wattles, all that good stuff, silt fence and everything to make sure that during construction, we're mitigating any erosion and things like that. We will have requirements for the contractor to provide a SWIP, early before they start work out there. to show us their additional measures, you know, should they have any reason for dewatering and things like that. All right. Steve, why don't you go down to, I'll keep going and then we can come back if that's okay with everybody. All right. So why don't you go to the grading plan for this guy, Steve? Okay, good. So this walkway, you can see this is a long, pretty flat walkway. So the ability to actually collect that runoff and try to send it to specific low points or infiltration basins becomes, you know, a bit difficult. And as we look at the drainage for the entire site, I didn't look at, you know, these small specific areas. I did look at the site as a whole in terms of the drainage analysis, because I think it's important to look and see where all that water, you know, is moving to. And we're able to send, you know, so much of that water from the parking lot to those infiltration areas that we're still able to meet the stormwater standards. So what you can see here is that the runoff from these walkways will just travel naturally through the grass areas. Obviously, they're not being used for vehicles on a daily basis. They're not generating that total suspended solids, things like that. So from the standpoint of treatment, the existing grass areas are actually going to provide treatment and any removal of very minimal sediment that might, you know, move on there. So very straightforward there. We actually don't have any drainage infrastructure in that location. It would cause a bit more of a problem. We'd have a lot of highs and lows to try to collect that water. It just really didn't make sense from a drainage perspective. We are trying to maintain, you can see, as Steve had pointed out previously, we do have that bordered vegetated wetland. We kind of have two with a little kind of inlet in between. So we have the culvert outletting to the right there, and the BVW associated with that. And then we have the BVW associated with that low point of that grass field area as well. We are within a portion of that 25 plus 10 setback for kind of the left side of that path. Again, that's all in previously disturbed and maintained area. So there's not a lot of natural vegetation or zone of natural vegetation associated with kind of the grass field BVW. That's kind of it in a nutshell. I'm happy to take questions. If there's any, yeah, if we'd like to open it up, Chuck.
I had, can you just go over the variance request too?
Yeah, absolutely. So the variance request is a request, let me just pull it up so I can make sure I get my wording right here. So we are requesting for work within that 35-foot buffer, the 25 plus the 10-foot on both sections of the project there. We are asking, we don't really have footings necessarily involved. You know, there's no structures, there's no walls, things like that, but we do obviously have the base profile associated with that gravel, this asphalt walkway here, and then the gravel walkway up at the parking lot area. So we are asking for really for a variance to allow for work in that area. In terms of mitigation, we have, you know, our erosion control mitigations, things like that. We are planting adjacent to those areas as well. And then I know as part of the sidewalk, you guys talked about potentially doing some, you know, removal of invasive species, you know, in these project areas, which we would certainly be amenable to.
Okay, is there anybody on the commission that has questions for the people from Activitas? Brian.
Yeah. Make sure I'm not muted. Yeah, a couple. When we were there, I thought, Steve, you were saying that part of the walkway, there's an encroachment there. Did I misunderstand that, or is that true?
For here, for this walkway?
No, I was thinking it was the ADA one down across the
Yeah.
ball fields, but you were talking about the one up by the school?
No, there is a small portion.
Okay. So then my question is, did you consider moving that walkway by a little bit so you wouldn't have an encroachment at all?
So right now, we're removing this green storage building that's
Right.
out there, but the utility poles have to remain as part of a strategic phasing of removing the overhead electric.
Okay, so it's dodging
We-
around the poles.
Yeah,
And you said this is a strategic phasing. When do you think the phase would be that would remove the poles or move them?
I can't make that. I'm not gonna.
Well, the
speak
reason
to
I'm
that,
asking
but
is,
if,
could we put a condition in that once the poles were moved, then the walkway could be adjusted to stay out of the area?
I think, just think about this, Steve, because right now there's no natural vegetation in there, right? Because isn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but that field, or the BVW area down there is a maintained field that gets used, is that right? For some, it's, that wetland associated is more about, less about wetland species and things like that, but it's more about the hydric soil profile, I believe, if I remember correctly.
It does have wetland vegetation around the edges. Cattail in particular are very noticeable on most sides of that field. But yes, the middle of the field is mowed for soccer
Okay.
and then flooded for ice skating in the winter.
Gotcha. It's coming very soon, if not already, right? So I guess, we could think about that condition. Certainly if that's, I think we could make that work. I would say that I don't know that it's necessarily gaining us a lot.
Okay, so, I
You know what I
mean,
mean?
that's fine. In the interest of trying to keep this short, but that's fine. I get that situation there. The one other question I have is back up at the parking lot across from the school. You talked about the stormwater, the rainwater. What about snow? I would presume that plows would naturally push the snow on the screen from left to right, therefore pushing the snow towards that waterway over there, right? So wouldn't the surface pollutants go with it? And they wouldn't necessarily make it to any of your catch basins or treatments or the rain garden.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I think, as part of the O&M manual, we did submit an O&M as part of a draft. We can add to that O&M manual as a condition if that's amenable to the commission, to show where those storage areas should be. And, really, we shouldn't be pushing snow towards the wetland area for exactly the reasons that you're talking about. So let Steve and I talk with the town internally about where that snow would go, whether it would be stored in the parking lot or whether it would be something that would be removed and pushed elsewhere. But we'd certainly be amenable to a condition saying that we need to provide more information for snow removal as part of the O&M. And perhaps, we have a guardrail kind of closer to the infiltration area. So that really starts to limit the ability to push snow in, which is good. But I can see your point. We'll just need to make sure that we tell everyone where that snow can and cannot go.
Right, and I ask because there's not a lot of great alternatives to that side. If you go up where it's curved, that's where the sidewalk is over to the school. People probably going to want to cross over there and then go down to the bottom. That's on the ball field. I don't know how easy it would be to push it there, but anyway, it's a question worth talking to the town about.
Sure.
And the last thing is just a note, Steve, when we were there the other day, we talked about actually labeling the rain garden as a rain garden.
Yep.
On the plan, just for future reference.
Yep.
And Martha, back to you. That's all I have.
Anybody else on the commission with questions or comments? And how about Chuck?
Yeah, I had a few questions. So just for a note, this was easy to start off with. So I wanted to add a couple of things to your erosion control plan. If you need them, I'd like to have curb inlet protection. And in these areas, which I consider this parking lot area, kind of high intensity construction. And back of the mulch sock, I'd like you to also add silt fence.
Sure.
And on this plan, I think if you zoom in to where the path is, but really where I want to look is those parking spots that butt up against the natural grassed area. And when I'm looking at the plan, I see this rough edge of vegetation that's there, kind of underneath the edge of the plan. I mean, this shows it also, but it doesn't show where the parking area is and how much square footage you've cut into this vegetation area. The new parking lot cuts into that, and the area, from my calculation, seems to be about 2,000 square feet. There's a spot, I guess, screen south, and there's a spot, the larger spot is north, and you can see where it says wooded and boulders, and there's some elevations, 93.1, and I'm wondering, was there an opportunity to recreate, take some impervious area and create pervious area somewhere to, I don't know, just replace that amount of perviousness that's going in this parking lot area. And then I also thought that there might be an opportunity to kind of like, it's late in the game, but move some of the parking area, just kind of like shift it towards, if we're looking at the screen, toward the left-hand side, that island that contains the bioretention area, kind of shift it up a bit, which wouldn't make a straight line of all those parking spots. But the main question is, did you look for a spot to replace that 2,000 square feet? And that was my calculations. If you use CAD program, you could probably come up with something different, maybe a lot lower.
No, it's pretty close, and I'm trying to find where, I know I had it in somewhere, but I think it was like around 1,500 square feet, so very close, right? Steve, can you maybe talk a little bit about planting areas? Because I think that's something that we can look at in a little bit more depth, Chuck, to provide that for sure. I think it's difficult, I should say, I think it's difficult doing that right adjacent to the kind of towards the wetland area side of the pathway. But I got to imagine that there's other areas we could kind of, we could fill in, like, especially as you kind of go kind of page north with that gravel path, you can see the existing vegetation kind of bows in towards the wetland, and we could start to fill those areas, things like that for sure.
Yeah, I thought that path was interesting too, because it looks like, I was wondering if, so it's pavement, that paved parking or paved walking path that enters into the gravel walking path. Is there an opportunity to increase the gravel and eliminate more of that paved walking path? I think that's up by the roadway. It seemed to be like a cutoff line. I thought it was lower down, but
Yeah, I
I
don't know where that line is, if it's under this, but it really should be that.
okay. Well, if it's not there, that you've picked up some, and maybe at the other end too, there's an opportunity.
Where it's paved here.
Well, no, I'm only talking about the path. I think the pavement's needed for, that's probably where most of the people are going to go, but it's hard to tell where it changes from, stone to pavement on this plan. But if there's an opportunity, maybe that's where you can pick up
That's
some of
the-
that 1,500 square feet.
Yeah, we could take a look at that, Chuck, for sure.
Yeah. My next question is that drainage area in the center. It looks like it holds like a half a foot, but I'm not sure that it holds any volume at all, because the drain, it seems like the lowest point is right at the storm drain. So it looks like it's gonna discharge right away. was there, so like, in the rain garden, you've elevated that to have some storage. Is there storage involved with this rain garden, or whatever it is, stormwater detention basin, that's in the center of the parking area?
Yeah, sure. So, it's funny. I wanted there to be, there really isn't, but it's not because we can't provide the storage. It's actually because I can't treat that water before sending it to that storage area, because that storage area, unless we line it, is gonna, want to infiltrate. And so from a treatment standpoint, I need that deep sump catch basin that's in the middle to actually collect that water and then send it to the rain garden, kind of page north there, to either, continue to outlet by the leaching basin or overtop the leaching basin and then go to that rain garden. So it's, I try, there's just not a lot of space there. There's different things that you can do to allow for that treatment, but that triangle gets so small, like you want at least almost 15 feet of grass area to treat it to meet that standard. So that's where I got stuck, because I wanted to use that area for detention as well, but it's like I couldn't make that model work in terms of treating it first before allowing it to infiltrate in that area, if that makes sense. It sounds silly. But.
So even if it couldn't be added to the calculations, it seems like there could be something, because if you have like some of those smaller storms that, obviously, if this is a grass area, and I'm not sure, one of my questions was, what is happening to these areas? Because in the details, one of them says plants and seed mix. So I was hoping there would be plants here, but you are going to, in those smaller storms, some of the sediment is going to infiltrate. And if there was just like some collar on that storm drain, you would be able to capture something, or there would be something that happens.
Mhm.
I did have a question. It looked like that once it goes in that storm drain, it diverts into two directions. I understand page north, the bioretention area. Is it going down to the bottom, page south also?
No, so page south is going towards that middle island. So our
Okay.
yeah, and then it's traveling that way. Exactly.
So it's picking up whatever's happening in the pathway and the center area, and then into and what size storm are we capturing here? What are we looking
I
for?
mean, we model up to the 100-year storm per the regs. So we are kind of designed to handle pretty large storms. We shouldn't see ponding in kind of the page south and page middle, if you will. We will see some ponding as part of that infiltration and rain garden area in that larger storm. But in the small storms, like the 2-year, we shouldn't really see standing water anywhere.
So I can't read the invert. It's like 9278. So 9278 is the 100-year storm. So when it starts to discharge at the 100-year storm, a 24-hour 100-year storm.
Yeah, let me, you know what, I can get that number for you.
What is it, the NOI or the stormwater?
For the stormwater, and let me go to the 100-year. And let's see, my pond AP. So where am I here? So my peak elevation in that 100-year storm is at 92. And Steve, I'm sorry, why don't you go back to the plan for 1 sec?
Yeah,
so
9278, I think it was, is the invert.
Is so, and Steve, why don't you zoom right into that infiltration area up top? Sorry, the up top one. There we go. So you can see. Oops. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're actually, as I'm saying this out loud, we're getting water in that leaching basin, and then our rim is up at that 92.5. So water from that middle area is able to get in there and just kind of naturally overtop. And then when all of these systems are kind of working together, we're going to see most of that not actually ponding in. It's going to go into that infiltration area, but we shouldn't see really standing water even in those larger storms. Because the sands, the soils out there, I think we have B soils out there, so they're, you know, reasonably well draining, which is great. So that water is able to go through that rain garden profile and go right through. And the way that I have the infiltration basin modeled, you know, we have in that kind of rain profile that we have in there, and then the outlet from that catch basin that you see at the top with the pipe, that we kind of only get that up to elevation 92 within that profile. So ponding wise, we shouldn't see much, but we're going to see water coming out of that kind of leaching basin initially to get in that area.
Okay, yeah, that's great. It seems like there's a lot of area that it's taken care of. I mean, everything is being directed in there, and you know, the center area that doesn't hold back any of that water really seems very important to try to hold back something. I know you looked at it. Is there any way you can? So before you do that, what was the reason why it wouldn't work? I mean, because you said it wouldn't. It needs to be
Sure.
bigger to make any difference.
Yeah, so when you so by the stormwater handbook, when you send runoff to an infiltration basin, you have to treat water, you have to do some pre-treatment to it. And if I included that middle triangle as a detention basin and I'm just sending water, I'm not treating that enough. So kind of from the handbook standpoint, it's kind of not clean enough that we want to be sending it down into the, you know, into the groundwater. So when I do my treatment train and my TSS, it's like we are accounting for street sweeping, I believe, in the parking lot area, and then I account for that that deep sump catch basin to treat that water, and then send it to that leaching basin, and then overtop into the infiltration basin for infiltration. So, but I think to your point, Chuck, what we could do, because I have you know, that rim of that catch basin in the middle is at about 92.5. We could raise that up just to, water's still going to get there, but we could slow it down. You know what I mean? I think that would help, kind of to your point, like we can use that area to decrease the flow of the water, to slow it down before it kind of moves over, which I think kind of balances out with what you might be looking for.
Yes, if you just got the TSS, that may come off the parking lot, and you know, you're going to get oils and whatnot there. So it would, I can see that it would help.
Yeah.
And if it can work out and how you're looking at that in your programs, I think it would be beneficial. Now, this is grass, right? And that's what you're proposing in this area as a covering?
Steve, what do we have for that printing?
It's a wet meadow native seed mix.
Sure. So you're asking for the wet meadow. I was wondering where groundwater is, because we know the elevation at the bottom is 92 something, whatever, 92. I wrote it down. I really can't see it. 92.44. Is that where it is over there?
Yeah, we're at about 92.5. Yeah.
92.5.
Right,
So
right.
if you're not in the groundwater and you use a wetland seed mix, it's, you know,
I think Steve and I can
If-
talk with that. We could probably turn that into more of a meadow mix.
Yeah,
So we're not going to have the hydric soils, but we can still have kind of the taller grasses, kind of those wetland flowers, meadow flowers, things like that, which also helps kind of slow down that water and provides treatment on its own into that area, as opposed to just having maintained, short grasses.
yeah. So yeah, this down one there, I mean, I think it would benefit for some shrubs, but is the other one at the top of the page, north screen, going to get some shrubs mixed in with that? Or is it just going to be grasses?
As of right now, there wouldn't be shrubs planted. There are shrubs within these seed mixes. So the seed mixes were submitted on the planting detail sheet.
Yeah.
There's two types, even though the supplier and a couple of them term it as wet meadow. it's not necessarily a wetland planting mix, but it's a mix of native grasses, shrubs. So that'll come up within the first year.
All right, I'm just gonna skip, it's getting a little long, but I wanted to ask if, so skip into the photometrics. So I have some concerns about plowing, snow plowing, and where that stuff is going and pushing it into the rain garden. So hopefully there's enough guardrail to prevent that from happening. And the operation and maintenance plan takes care of like spring cleaning. So the photometrics, yeah, this is a good one. So that area that's off the parking lot seems to be elevated a little bit. Can we get down to 0 as soon as we hit the grass? Or is that not or maybe even at the edge of the path? Is that possible? So I think that's the stream where it's 0 now, but if bring it back to the path, would that, any of that be possible? You know, I don't know if that makes a big difference, or if these slight changes can happen. And then you have some numbers that are pretty high in here, like 3.0 is just off the grass, but next to it is, you know, 0.9. So I was wondering why we're getting that fluctuation. That's kind of center screen of the photometric. Yeah, that. Right in there.
Yeah,
Am I
3.3
seeing
to
that?
09,
Yeah, yeah.
2.1 to 04.
And then, yeah,
That's as far as I'm aware, the LED cutoff from the shielding of the light. We are looking at the lighting again.
okay.
Some comments from planning board on Monday night. So we can look at trying to pull that 0 cutoff back a little further.
That would be great. I mean, I don't know where it is in the stream, but I think that edge is, you know, pretty important to the habitat, and you probably want to not have light in that area. So I'm looking for maybe something around the path area. And I was listening to the planning board of the CPDC the other night, and I think I support what one member said about shutting off these path lights when they're not needed. And that member had mentioned that when these the lights for the fields are on, maybe the lights in the paths are not needed. So
Yeah, we're continuing to have that conversation with the town and public safety.
And sure, and the same request is for where the Abijona is.
Yep.
Up at the other side, and that's near Castine Field and the walkway. Yeah, see that where it dips down and it kind of dips over the head wall of, I guess, the opening of the culvert where the Abijona, yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Now I understand like the pathway drops there, everything drops, but maybe if we can just pull those back a little bit.
Yep, we can take a look at that again.
And then I just wrote on here, this will be my last questions. I'll write my questions down and any of the commission's questions and send them to you. And the ones I didn't get to, you are going to come back because of the file number. I was wondering if there was an opportunity to put a bench on the path that that we're talking about for that Imagination Station area, kind of in there somewhere to have a bench. You know, I'm imagining this is a much better environment than it is now. Gets mowed a little bit, is nice. We have the flowers and the streams cleaned up because you're doing the invasive removal and all that, and that's getting monitored. So it would be nice to think about, and I know that every bench costs just that much more, but that's my request for this area too.
Yeah.
That's what I have, Chair.
Okay, are there any members of the public here? Please go to the reaction function at the bottom of your screen and use the raise hand button. And Chuck, we have somebody who's in the waiting room right now.
Okay. That's
Is there any
taken
members
care
of
of.
the public with questions? I don't see any raised hands.
Can you stop the screen share so we can see this? It's a little easier to see who's out there
There we go.
watching this. Yeah. Yeah, so the reaction button's at the bottom of the screen, and when you click that, it opens up to a picture of a hand, and you just click that if you want to ask any questions. Seeing none. I'm gonna just check my email. Sometimes people send me emails telling me different things. So I definitely hope Jenna is in. Yeah, I see her, so I got that email. Okay, no, I don't see anyone asking any questions, so back to the chair. I think we would,
And Chuck, there we go. The person we just let in is connecting to audio,
okay.
so we'll need to mute them shortly. Okay, no questions from the public, and last chance for members of the commission today. Okay,
Any,
so shall we have a motion to continue this to the next meeting? And then we'll have a file number by then?
This is Brian. Make a motion to continue this Birch Meadow project to the next meeting.
so can I get the applicant to agree to being moved to January 11th prior to making this motion?
Yep.
Okay, hearing yes. Please second that, whoever.
John, I'll second.
Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Carl Ciccone in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Yep, thank you.
See you in January.
Happy New Year.
Thanks. Okay, our next hearing is 39 Lila Lane. We've heard from them before. They are assessors map 56, lot 34, RCC file number 2022-14.
I'm going to see if it's Jennifer and it's Tom, but I don't see Tom on here.
Oh, he did come.
Oh, wait a minute, I have him. Yeah, I just let him in over here. All right, Tom, you're on. And hey, Tom, is there anyone else with you tonight?
Yeah, sorry about my voice. I'm kind of sick. We have the landscaper that is going to handle the plantings and everything that you guys were requesting. He did a drawing, and I believe he did the neighbor's yard also on the right. So he's very familiar with this. He should be in here.
What's his name?
Mr. Garin for the land, Garin Landscaping.
I got it. Yep. Mr. Guerin, you have permissions to turn on your screen and unmute.
And I'd like somebody to put up the planting plan that was submitted.
Sure, that would be me.
Hold on.
Mr. Guerin, do you have the planting plan, or do you want me to?
Happy, can you help me here? I can't get on. Yeah, I gave it to Tom.
Okay, I'm gonna put that on the
Oh, I
screen
have
right
it
now.
Okay. I got it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, they can hear you.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can hear you.
I gave it to Tom.
It is.
It's on the screen now. I think you can see it.
Yeah.
So
Alright.
just please orient us. You have a line that says house, but I don't know which direction Lila Lane is from your blueberry bushes.
Okay, Lila Lane is, here's the front of the, this is the side of the house, the left side. So this, just turn that, the house, Lila Lane is like right.
So it
at
says
the bottom.
Lila Lane right here.
Yeah, Yeah.
That's Lila Lane down here. This
Yeah.
is the side of the house.
So I didn't know how many trees they were taking out, so I just measured a quick measurement of 60 feet, and I planted every 3 feet of Blue Jay, Duke, and Patriot, 12 to 18 inches, and that's the better ones to plant.
Okay, so are these behind the swimming pool, behind the house,
No.
along the wetland boundary, or are these
No,
along
on the side. On the side where the trees are gonna be taken out.
Okay, so these are forming a hedge between this house and the neighbor.
Yes,
Got it.
and taking the trees out, which blueberry bushes need sunny area, more sun and shade, which would help the blueberry bushes in the long run.
Are those
I
all
would
native
think-
plants?
Yes,
I would think that would mean that Lila Lane is to the left if these are between the house and the neighbors.
yeah, just turn that like that, and this would be the front of the house, this is the left side of the house. I kind of did it like it was at like nighttime, because they needed the plan pretty quick, so. So this is the left side, if you just turn it, this right here is the left side of the house where the plants are going.
Okay,
So Lila Lane is here.
Yeah, Lila Lane would be, yeah,
All right.
sorry. Just quick,
So-
I didn't know if they wanted a professional plan or just
This
'cause I
side's
did-
Lila Lane.
I did the house next door, 31 Lima, the Prior's house, and we planted, I think about 15 or 16 blueberry shrubs back there, and they're doing pretty good now, actually.
So here's the house.
Yep,
That's a pool.
Here's the wetland. Lila Lane, and this is the side of the house.
yes, left side.
Okay.
anybody on the commission have questions for the presenters?
Well, if no one, I do.
Okay.
So we're only concentrating on the side of the house. I know there was some trees in the back of the house. Are you still proposing to remove those trees?
You told me on the left side of the house where the. Okay, hold on.
See what Tom says about that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, Chuck. Say that again.
So right now, we're only talking, Mr. Garin Landscaping only said that it's the left side of the house where that row of trees is coming out. There
Well,
was
no. He said that's where he's gonna do the planting. So we still have on the agenda to take out all the trees we discussed. But you wanted a planting put in with a specific amount of plants. So talking with the homeowner, Jimmy Lynch, I assume that Mr. Garin was talking with them, they decided the planting, instead of putting it behind the house by the wetlands, it would be better to put it in between the houses so
Okay.
it still gives a buffer.
Okay.
That's what I'm getting out of it. I haven't
No,
talked.
the question was, are you still proposing to take down all the trees? And the answer is
Yes.
yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Any comments from the commission?
One question. Oh, sorry, ma'am. This is
ahead.
John Garin again. We're gonna put shrubs in. I misunderstood. I got another story from the owner of the house. I thought we were just taking out the trees on the left, but we are taking some in the back. So there's gonna be more blueberry shrubs in the back then. I misunderstood them, so I didn't,
So there was a certain amount that the commission, I'm sorry, you missed the last meeting because we got you in after this.
yeah.
There was a certain number that they requested in place of it. Jen, do you know the amount that they requested? Is she there? My sister there, Jen?
Oh, she's not. Yeah, Jennifer is. I'll let her in. Sorry.
Chuck, do you remember how many you requested? It was like 2 per tree.
Yeah, so it's 2 shrubs for each tree or a tree for each tree.
So there was 3 and 7. So yeah, we needed, I think, 20 roughly in total. So how many are in the drawing?
I put 20 on the left side.
He's
Yeah,
got
so-
20, but we're talking, so there are
It's-
supposed to be some put in the back, we were told by Chuck and the Conservation Committee. You wanted some stuff put in the back to compensate and pull out the weeds, the hawthorn weeds.
Yes.
So you wanted those pulled out fully and then planted blueberry bushes to compensate for that and to help with the vegetation and stuff.
Yeah, they
Right.
didn't necessarily have to be in the back. They just wanted them planted in a good, healthy place that they're gonna thrive. Now, if
Okay.
you plant them between the houses, I do like that idea. It gives them some privacy and sound barrier too. But I mean, regardless, there is 20 there, and now you aren't disturbing more of the wetlands if you plant them further back. If you plant them on the left side, we're gonna be within the buffer, but outside the majority of the wetlands, so it would be less disturbance.
Well, how many trees are being taken out of the back, Tom?
There's 2 big ones on the left and 1 on the right. So
Because I could just add 6 more.
no, the 20 covers the amount. The amount of shrubs you have covers the
Okay.
amount for what we were asked. It was just where they were gonna be planted. So
Okay.
I mean, I think the left side would be better anyways to keep it out of the back there.
Well, it's very, it's shady back there, and blueberry bushes aren't gonna grow in the shade. And,
Yeah.
I'll raise my hand, or I could, sorry.
Yeah, Brian has his hand up, but Carl, why don't you go and then we'll go to Brian.
Okay, sorry, Brian.
All right.
Yeah, so regarding the shade, I think that's fine. There's other shade tolerant. One thing could be like a viburnum or something else. And that was maybe my one suggestion was it might be nice to have something right kind of near the resource area just to kind of to project mitigation there.
I'll do anything you want. That's fine, but we couldn't do it till springtime anyway, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that'd be my one suggestion is 20 blueberry is just kind of a lot of blueberry. We could mix in just a couple more woody kind of shrub like a viburnum. And if the commission thinks that there could be something along the back near the resource area, I don't think shade would be an issue with some of the trees being removed and then something like a viburnum or dogwood that would handle that. So, but I can recommend something more.
Okay.
Chuck, any chance you can put up the plot plan with the trees marked on it that we're talking about cutting? We can see them here showing the green pine trees, but
It's these trees.
yeah,
If this
Yeah.
helps, this one here. I think this is one tree, and there's something over here which always looked like it was on the other people's property. So they're all pines, so this is the only other pine.
So there's 1 on the back right. There's actually 3 on the back left, but only 2 are coming out.
Which
And
one?
then-
Is this one coming out? Is this one staying?
I don't see what you're pointing to, Chuck.
Oh, okay.
Oh, now I can see
In the
it.
blue.
Oh, yeah. So there's 3 back there on the back left, but only 2 are coming out. There's 1 on the back right, and then there's like 7 along the left side of the house.
Which one of the pines on the left is not coming out? The one deepest
It's
in
the
the
furthest
wetland?
one back in the left.
Okay, so that one's being saved.
Yes.
So this one's being saved.
Yes.
And are you sure this one's on your property? Because we've already allowed a bunch of trees over here.
Yeah, that's where I planted last year.
if you look at the property line, I don't see any evergreens on that side that would correspond to what you're talking about taking down. It looks like it's next to, on the other side of the property boundary where Chuck's indicated with the blue mark.
Yeah, see, Jimmy, maybe he was off on the property line. He was sure, he did show me where the front started over on there, but maybe he thought it went a little more straight back, Chuck. I'm not, I don't own the property. I can't answer that. for
Yeah,
you.
maybe, yeah, it's, so we can't approve a tree on someone else's property, but you could go through the expense of having it surveyed and have the tree, you know, on the survey. So I think that tree's going to be tough to approve, especially with this property here already taking a bunch of trees down. So we wouldn't want to
Hey.
make a mistake with that.
Could you trim the top like I asked before? You know, try to get some of the top off of it to get the wind tunnel off out of it. You know what I mean?
It appears to not be on this Jimmy Lynch's property, so we
Okay.
can't make any determination about that tree.
Okay.
So if you did the trimming, what's the survivability? Because you could come back and prove that maybe if Jim doesn't have the property plot plan, maybe the neighbor does, and that would be very helpful. But what's the survivability rate for cutting off the top of the tree?
I mean, honestly, I've topped white pines in half before, and I've told people I thought they were gonna die, and they're growing healthier than ever. So if you only took, 10, 20 feet off, and it's a 100-foot tree, I don't see any issue with it at all. I've done some unethical things with cutting the trees back, not in wetlands, I promise. But, the customers wanted it, and I was shocked myself that how much we took off, they were still surviving. So I don't see if, we trim the top down some, it being an issue at all.
All right. Brian, is your hand still up?
Yep.
Okay, Brian,
Okay. So my questions really have to do with the trees on the back left. So can you explain again why you want to take down all the trees in that area?
So they're in a really low, it's a high water table area. They're extremely tall. They're leaning right towards his pool, concrete wall, and his house. There's nothing behind it to help break the wind. The wind just comes across the open area behind it, and he wants the safety of his property. I mean, that's the ultimate safety.
When I was there on a site visit, it was quite some time ago at this point. I went there with Mr. Driven, and we looked at those trees, and they looked healthy to us. And I will say that while your characterization that they're tall and what have you is correct, they have grown tall because they've been there a long time. So I don't see anything that makes me think that they're in imminent danger of falling.
No, I mean, you never know. It's New England.
Well, that's true of any tree in New England. We don't take them all down.
And I tell people that all the time. You're absolutely correct. Let's just say this one's gonna break versus the other one. It's all just a draw, luck of the draw.
Okay, so that's my only real question about back there. I'm not inclined to approve those. My first question is a broader one, which is, isn't this an RDA we're talking about? So basically, we're going to be voting on whether or not we have jurisdiction. I guess that's more to Chuck and Martha.
Yeah, so it is an RDA, and we're voting on whether, so the vote is, yes, we have jurisdiction, and no, that the work proposed will not alter the resource area. So, but you have to take into consideration the replanting. So this is pretty typical for how we handle trees in Reading, because a notice of intent seems to be just so much more cumbersome to the homeowners and whatnot. So the questions that you're asking is, they're proposing work and with the determination, it will allow us to check off, yes, the work is in the resource area, or yes, the work is in the buffer zone, but no, if it's a positive determination, that it's likely to alter the resource area if we allow this work, and therefore no notice of intent is needed.
So taking down healthy trees in the buffer area would be altering the habitat, yes.
Well,
I don't think so.
you don't want to dial in. So you have to look at, I know we're talking about one property, but there's planting going on, and I mean, you could say that if someone mowed the lawn, you're altering the habitat. I just think you have to take in consideration with like the whole, back up 10,000 feet and take a look. Not saying that I'm trying to make this happen. I'm just saying if one tree, if you are altering like the habitat area for that one tree, but in the grand scheme of things, what's the likelihood of that altering the
Okay,
resource area?
Right, so I get your point.
Okay.
And I am inclined to look at it overall, which is taking down some healthy trees that have lived there a long time in return for getting plantings of shrubs and removing of invasives. That's basically what we're talking about. That's the swap.
Yes.
Right, so we're losing some large trees that provide habitat for some blueberries and maybe some other things.
Would the client be opposed to swapping some of the blueberries for something a little bit more woody structure, a little bigger, like a?
I mean, with Jack already mentioned that if you want to add a few different ones, you want to put them in a different location, we can add it some. I mean, we tried to draft it up and keep it as far away as we could for you, thinking it was better.
Yeah.
But if you think something's a little bit better on your behalf, then we're open for your suggestion, and you can write edits in the notes and put it as stipulation.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like a couple of things are on the table here. So the commission, don't forget, there's cutting, there's topping, and then there's the planting. And you don't want to make a monoculture of plants out there. So I would suggest changing that up a little bit. And I'm not sure how we get the right list prior to any approval.
So Martha, going back to put my hand up, I'm all set with my questions. I've gotten the answers I was looking for.
If you wanted to write down, plant 3 viburnums, 15 blueberry bushes, and just write the specific notes of what you want to see planted, that's not a problem.
Sure. Yeah. I think the easiest way to do it would be to say, no more than 3 to 5, whatever the commission thinks, 3 to 5 of each species or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can move forward.
The recommendation was, all the blueberry bushes were good, maybe 1 woody tree or 2, but we are trying to make it a cost-effective project too. In the end, it gets everything. These days with inflation, everything gets out of control.
I think if you add another, maybe a couple, it's not much more. You got to do a little more clearing, but if you put some viburnum, they're probably around the same price anyways. I could take a couple of blueberry bushes out and replace them with the viburnum.
Yeah, we can put 5 in, right? That would.
So is it still for the blueberry bushes? It was 2 per tree. So if we take out 6 blueberry bushes, you'd only have to put in 3 viburnum.
No, I think the viburnum would still be just sort of a woody shrub. So that would, it's honestly would get probably similar height to some of the high bush blueberry. But it's just a different kind of species would be helpful. So that's good. Does that anyone else have any thoughts on that? And that seems nice to throw another species in there.
Well, I would like to see some trees as opposed to just more shrubs. I agree with the variety of species, makes perfect sense, but why not a red maple or something like that interspersed among it back there
Mhm.
somewhere.
I can entertain, I can ask Mr. Lynch if he wants to do that, that'd be fine. I think he will, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
He likes the property, it'll look very nice, so. He like,
So at that point, it's one tree for one tree, is the way it was explained last time.
Yeah, I mean, you
Yeah,
could
so- yeah.
adjust your planting list.
yeah,
Why don't we, no, Mr. Garin. So if we're gonna do a tree, we could remove a couple of blueberry, right? And then swap 5 other blueberry for viburnum. Right,
Yeah.
so it'd be a total of what, 18 shrubs in one tree?
and we could put a tree like right in the middle of the planting and.
Yeah.
Make a group planting on each side of the tree, so it kind of looks nice, not just
Mhm.
sticking shrubs in anywhere. I kind of laid it out so it would be, planted in like a triangle, make it
Yeah.
look nice, not just a straight line. And and you gotta, the soil has to be, between 4.5 and 5.5, so the soil sample has to we have to take that. And then it has to be well drained. And then, some aged chips would be plant 6 to 8 inches of chips around the beds itself for the first year to keep the moisture. So,
That's a good idea.
So all of this is assuming we're allowing all the trees to be taken down. And I think there was some discussion about whether they really need to take down the trees closest to the wetland or whether they could just trim the trees in the farthest back closer to the wetland and remove the trees between the two houses. And are there people on the commission that feel we should let them take down all the trees, or would we allow maybe 7 or 8 of the trees to be removed rather than all 10?
Well, I think we can start by saying the trees between the houses, we all would agree with. Some of those are pretty spindly anyway, they're not thriving. At least one is actually dead. So I think we can take that as a given. Feel free to disagree with that. So then the question becomes the ones in the back left, with the assumption that the one on the right isn't actually on the property, so we're not going to deal with that. As far as the back left, I've expressed my opinion that I prefer to see some of them live. At the same time, Chuck made a persuasive argument that in the grand scheme of things, to use his phrase, swapping those off and getting good plantings in the back of the property would be a reasonable swap. And on top of that, I would not mind if at least one of those back there was saved because it got topped and not cut.
Well, you will have another tree. There's 3 back there.
So
And we're
to
gonna
Tom,
leave
Tom, can you
one.
see what I just circled? That one's staying, right?
Yeah. So
And
only
that's-
2 of the 3 would come out.
And there's 2 right here? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Or is that one tree and this is one tree?
No, both of them. If that's the wetland area, I lost it. But yeah, the furthest one back would stay. And then
Is there 2 just in front of it?
yeah,
Okay, so there's 2 right here.
I lost your screen. I don't know if it went black for everyone.
We can still see. The one on the other side of the property line, I think we can assume that one is not being removed. So
Yeah.
that really takes us down to at most 9 trees.
Now let me ask you this: if we were to get permission from the neighbor, would it be
Mhm.
okay to take some of the top off? Because generally trimming within the wetland area, as long as you aren't killing the tree and you take, only within 20%, I know that it wasn't a problem.
That tree seems to be further. I'm just wondering if we even have the right tree, but that
I
tree
know,
seems to be
because the
further
other
away
tree
than the
seems
others.
a lot closer.
Mm.
The one in the back right seemed closer than the ones in the back left. If you remember correctly, Chuck. Remember?
I mean, that tree seems to be further away. I'm not and I've worked with this GIS program a lot, it does look like it's too far into this other property to be some sort of like angle from the satellite. So
But I
it's
thought the
this is
one in the
just
back right was closer than the ones in the back left, but it's been a little bit too.
all right. So this one, yeah. So, and then we have just 3 trees left. This one here and 2 in there. And we need to go.
It might be the blue you have, the one blue, the 2 blue. So there's one way back and one up front more.
This might be 2 trees.
Yeah, those are the 2 there, and then the third one's the one you circled in yellow.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna suggest the one, yeah, that Chuck has his marker at now. We let them take that one, because that's also right up near the pool. So take that one down, and then the one behind it, let's have him trim that one, but not take it down, and that will provide some support to the one on the windward side of that, so that the one, you don't have one solitary tree all by itself left over. So do a little trimming on that second to last tree, because you're leaving the last tree.
So
Okay.
could I add? What do you think of that, Tom?
I mean, you guys are the boss, but it's you know, you're right in a way. If we can get the top of one down and there's another bigger one behind it, it could help break the fall in the way if something ever were to come over. You know.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad idea. You know, so with that corner kind of straightened out, I still kind of stuck on the right side, maybe being able to at least trim it down if we get the neighbor's permission.
So you can trim even that neighbor. So you can trim, but not taking it off the top. I don't know. What does the commission think? So we do have that rule and policy to 20% of each tree's canopy. So I don't think that needs to, with permission, I don't think that's still okay, even though they took down a lot of trees over there. In my opinion, I'm not sure what everyone else thinks. But I'm not sure if that means taking the top off.
Well, that's the only real way to trim a pine tree down, you know, and we aren't looking to cut it in half. We're just looking to try to get it with the tree line, you know, because these pine trees do stick up quite a bit higher than the other tree lines, you know. So if everything's kind of in the tree line, that's your best case scenario. So they're all together in the wind stream, you know.
I mean, we haven't tried that method before. It might be, and Tom has worked with the Conservation Commission a lot and with me. I think they're doing a lot of replacement. I don't know. I'm kind of interested in finding out whether topping these pines could be something that we could add to, you know,
Right, and then
our approvals. I don't know what Carl thinks. I mean,
yeah, it would be interesting because then it's like, as to Brian's point, it's still kind of retaining, right, that shade in you know, structure, right? I mean, I've never done that and waited to see, but I have sort of liked what Tom's saying. I've seen some pretty funky things done to people's properties, and the trees seem to be, you know, if not still thriving. So I don't know.
Someday, Chuck, when you have time, not one of my neighbors, a few houses up, far away from the wetlands, I promise. We took a 7,000-pound top out of his tree, and I highly discouraged it. And this was about 4 years ago, and the tree's still thriving, unbelievable. And this is one of the instances that, you know, like I said, it's some things have surprised me, you know.
Chuck, it might be something that we write into that. Could someone almost be available for that, just so it doesn't turn into, you know, 40% of the trees gone? But
oh, we wouldn't do that. We know you need plenty of
just
growth.
as like to see what, like Tom's point of blending it in with the existing canopy, you know, if that's all if that's all it needs to be, maybe that's not as much as we even think. I don't remember, but
All right, so it sounds like just to move this along, we're cutting out the trees in red. The ones in yellow are staying, but we're topping this tree here in blue. And this one here is not being topped, but it's being pruned to 20%. Is that what we've agreed on?
Except that the one to the right, we are not given approval for the cutting. That has to be done with the neighbor. We're just
neighbors ap-
saying that
Yeah.
if they get approval, then we won't stand in the way.
Okay.
We are topping that one on the right to 20, possibly 20%, right, Tommy?
Yeah, Jen, depending
Okay.
on what the neighbor says.
Depending on the neighbor's approval, I
Yeah.
understand.
I'll talk with the neighbor.
And what's this one here is being topped to, what do you think, Tom? So I can just, what do you think you're gonna do with this one?
I mean, the same thing. I don't think there's any need to take more than 20 or 30% off. By the agriculture standards, they say don't take any more than a third off a tree. It's gonna depend on how much greenery it has, and then I'll split like I'll look to see where we can keep it healthy enough. You
I'm
know,
only doing this so I can take a screenshot, so it's not
Yeah.
my amazement, okay, so there we go.
no more than
Any other comments from commission members? Don't forget to ask anyone attending tonight's meeting if they have any comments.
Yeah, just one thing, Jennifer mentioned dealing with some of the hawthorn in back, and I think what she meant was the buckthorn.
Buckthorn, yes,
Those
sorry.
Invasive buckthorn back there that if they could remove some of that invasive buckthorn, and I think Mr. Garin, we're assuming that you are the expert who knows what buckthorn looks like.
Yeah, I already see it. Well, yeah, we were gonna do it in the fall, but we just kind of ran out of time and,
So
you knew
in
Tom
the
was
spring,
coming
once
in.
it leaves out is fine.
Right,
Yeah, but just, we don't want to have mistaken identity taking out something good because it's the middle of the winter with no leaves.
Right.
So, okay.
Okay, and then I think I'm pretty sure. So the last thing is though, is just to be aware, the trees coming out in red would need to be stump ground.
Yeah, you
if
can
we plant-
always, so we allow cutting and stumping.
okay.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
But that's why the ones in the wetland, you wouldn't get that stumping thing going on, but
Yeah, but those
ones in
were
red.
far enough back,
Mm.
they weren't worried about. But as long as we
Okay.
can grind all the red ones coming out, then he can do the planting, no problem.
And so,
Okay.
and before we finish with your pretty picture, Chuck, so in that area in the middle and the back, is that where the shrubs are going to be planted, or are they on the left where the trees are being removed?
Both.
Okay,
Plant some here, plant some back here.
I was gonna put the red, can you see my pen there or no?
No,
Okay, so I was gonna, the middle of the pool back, I put the red maple, and then I put maybe 2 viburnums on each side. Or maybe a viburnum and a blueberry, same thing with 2, and then the rest over here on the left side of the house.
okay, but the bottom line is, they'll be in both places. It'll be a variety of species, and there'll be one red maple
One red maple,
mixed in at an appropriate place.
yes.
Okay,
Sorry, not to chime in, but we might be better off putting the red maple in the back left corner so it doesn't pose future encroachment on his pool. Like where the red X single trees coming out.
like in this spot here, that looks like there might be an
Yeah, so
opportunity.
it's away, because if we plant it right behind the pool, who knows how it's gonna be in 10 years, you know?
Oh, it's
But
like
also
15,
damage the patio.
15
Mhm.
years.
well, it's going to take a long time for that tree to be a problem.
Yeah.
All right, so again,
that's-
we haven't got into placing trees before, so well, I
But
think we
we'll take a
should.
look at it, I'll take a look at it. It has to be in the right area though, it can't be.
Yeah, so So it looks like there's 2 viburnum and a red maple in the back area, so you have to do that, but where it ends up, as long as it's in the back, would be
Yeah.
great. And then the rest are planted along the side. All right,
So then, last thing, sorry, the total amount then, because we aren't taking down all the trees, are gonna be, what's the total amount we needed to do?
I don't know. Where's Carl?
Well, what's the trees? What's the final number?
We're
then?
leaving one, so there'd be 18 for 2 bushes to 1, but then we're
Mhm.
gonna do 1 tree. So
Right.
that does it. So 16 bushes and 1 tree, sound right?
That's fine with me.
Yeah, yes, yeah. And of the 16 bushes, maybe we mix in
A few
5 of the
viburnum.
five of the 16 are viburnum.
Okay,
Just
So
so it's a
11
real mix.
blueberry, 5 viburnum, and 1 red maple.
Mhm.
Done deal.
all right.
And we didn't ask for public comment yet, but now's a good chance. If there are any members of the public who have something to say, use your reaction button to make your hand raised. Chuck, have you got your screenshot yet?
I did.
Okay,
And
so
I'm
we
gonna
can
stop this.
Sharing. Is there anybody with a raised hand? I don't see anybody. Okay, so we have, this is a RDA, so in order to make this possible, we need a negative determination, and then we have the conditions as listed. The 16 shrubs, 1 red maple, 5 of the shrubs are viburnum, the rest are blueberry.
Mhm.
And the
So
up to
11 blueberry,
30%
right?
off of 1 tree, and with the neighbor's permission, up to 20% off the other tree.
Yep.
So those are the conditions we're looking for to write up in the RDA. All right.
Okay.
I have a motion.
This is Brian. I'll make a motion for a negative determination. 39 Lila Lane.
This is John, I'll second.
Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Carl Sacconi in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good holiday.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
All right.
It is
Okay.
8:38. Moving along. Our next one is 31 Harold Ave. Are there people here from 31 Harold Ave?
That has been continued.
Okay, so we need a vote for that.
Yes.
Can I have a motion to continue 31 Harold Ave to January 11th?
This is Brian. I'll make a motion to continue 31 Harold Ave till January 11th.
This is John, I second.
Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Carl Sacconi in favor.
Martha Moore in favor, and just for the record, that's Assessor's Map 39, Lot 83, RCC file number 2022-6. And on the Lila Lane one, I'm just still, we had 2 things that were both -14, and I'm not sure whether this is the correct one or not. So we might want to revisit the number for Lila Lane again. It's in the minutes from a November meeting, correctly written, I believe, or the October meeting, I forget which. Okay, our next people are 494 Haverhill Street. Open the public hearing on a request for determination of applicability filed by Kyoko and Hideki Hiramoto under the Massachusetts Wetland Bylaw Act, Wetland Protection Act, MGL, Chapter 131, Section 40, and/or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant proposes to remove an existing 2,000-gallon underground storage tank about 2 feet below grade. The surface will be restored to match the existing surface, and erosion control will be provided along all down gradient areas. Portions of the work are within the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at Town Hall Conservation Office, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, Mass. 01867, and on the Conservation Division page under the project by year, Assessor's Map 46, Lot 41, RCC file number 2022-16. Okay. And Chuck, I believe you told me that this turns out not to be within our jurisdiction.
So let's, so we
Oh.
need to go through, as I was pulling up the plan, I noticed that I thought I was directed to where the tank was, is no longer in the back. The plan shows it on the side of the property. So I'd like whoever's here to present this project just to raise their hand so I can let you into the meeting. I have
Okay,
one hand
BW.
raised, but I don't see it.
It's BW.
Okay, right there. Okay, so you're all set, and I will introduce yourself as soon as you turn on your screen. Yep, there you go.
Hi there. There should also be Bob Colucci, who I saw in the participants. He should
Mhm.
is assisting in this matter from Web Engineering.
I see him. Robert.
Robert Colucci, and I don't know whether they had to leave. Hideki and Kyoko were here, but one of them's in Japan and dealing with time changes, so I actually don't know whether they're still listed as a participants. Oh, I can see participants myself, can't I?
Yeah.
It looks like they are not currently here. So I think Rob Colucci just joined. Oh, hi there. First of all, I want to say that I think it's a 1,000 gallon tank.
Not a 2,000, huh?
Not
At
a 2000.
At any rate, I've spoken to both the fire department and the city quite a few times, hoping to simplify the process. Because I mean, this is actually not a cost the homeowners were, you know, they have to remove it. It's for they have to. So we're just trying to do whatever's necessary to do it cleanly, simply, and correctly according to you guys. So I heard you say that this may not even be in your jurisdiction, which we were told pretty clearly it was.
Yeah, let me, yeah, so first off, when you work within the 100-foot buffer zone, there is no easy way through it.
Yeah, sure.
So we can't make accommodations for certain houses and not for others. So everyone has to follow the rules.
Sure.
So originally I was told, at least I believe I was told, there could have been some miscommunication here, but this is where I thought we were talking about in this area here. I'm well aware that this area is within the 100-foot buffer zone because I think that the old owner that owned this house did some work out here without a permit. And so now we're doing additional work, and that might have been, I can't remember what it was, but anyways, you know that you're closer than 100 feet right in this area here. So
there's a stone wall along there somewhere. I don't know whether
Yeah.
that was the work that was done.
seemed to it was like it was removing something else or installing something. I'm not sure if there anything new had been installed, but that's not why we're here tonight. So I think that outside of my mistake about this is outside our jurisdictional area, please proceed with your presentation.
Bridget, did you want me to speak on?
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I see Kevin has his hand up. I'm not sure what that's
Oh,
about.
That is the homeowner. He would like to please enter.
Oh, sure thing.
That's Hideki Hiramoto. He also goes by Kevin.
Okay, Kevin, you're all set.
Okay, I think I got the idea that it was a 2,000 gallon tank from the tank contractor. So if that's incorrect, 1,000 just, you know, even less, they're just, it's even smaller. But for the
So,
part,
Robert, and BW and Kevin, when you speak, could you just let us know, you know, kind of like your signature and all that, the title and names? Thank you.
My
Well,
name is Hideki. Oh, sorry. My name is Hideki Hiromoto. I'm the owner of 494 Havel Street.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bob Lucio, I'm with Web Engineering Associates. I was hired to do the application for the request for determination on this.
Okay, and so it looks like the tank
So
has to be
just from my
removed.
notes, I'm sorry, I didn't, so I'm sorry but B and W, that's all I see. Can you let us know who you are?
Yes, I'm sorry. This is Bridget Walker, and I work for the homeowners, assisting them with such things that might require a better English
Thank
speaker.
you. It's just to help
Of course.
with the notes in the
Thank
minutes.
you.
Thank you. Okay.
So the process of removing an underground storage tank is that you excavate the soil that's above the tank sufficient enough so that there's no longer any weight holding the tank down. That's done with a medium-sized excavator. And then once the top of the tank is clear, they lift the tank out of the ground, put it on a flatbed truck, and and then it goes off the site. They stockpile soil while they're excavating to the top of the tank, and then once the tank is gone, they put the soil back in the hole and add additional soil, because obviously they got a 2,000 gallon void or a 1,000 gallon void, and then backfill it to grade level. And so it basically, and then dress the site, and as far as that I know, to dress it to what is there now. And
Mhm.
so in essence, there's no change to the site in any way from the work that's being proposed. The only issue might be that they're going to excavate soil and stockpile it. Now that soil would barely be there overnight, but what they would do, if it had to be left overnight, they would stockpile it on a poly sheeting, with poly sheeting, so that if it rains, the rain doesn't wash the soil pile anywhere. And then in addition, subject to the Conservation Commission's approval, they put in the mulch socks, just during the process to prevent any erosion or any soil from washing into the wetland.
Sure. In the application, it says that the tank is cut open, and I was wondering if that happens on site, or does it cut
Yes,
open in the ground?
Yeah, once they expose the top of it, that's to clean it and prepare it for transport.
Sure. And when you pull it out, when do you check to see if there was any fractures or leaking?
Well, it would be after the tank is pulled out of the ground.
Mhm.
There's an observation period to see if there's any contamination, contaminated soil. In this case, it would likely that if they suspected contamination, they would take samples of the soil and then put the soil back in the ground. And then if it warranted it, they would hire a licensed site professional to do the investigation of the site.
Sure. What is the reason this tank is being removed from the ground? Is it just the liability, or it has to be changed out anyways? It's just good, housekeeping.
Brenda, can you answer that question?
I think I can speak to that. I think typically during the sale of the house, it would have been required from the previous owners, but we didn't realize that. And so we bought it as is. And then one of the oil companies informed us that they were no longer going to be providing oil to underground tanks because of, long-term liability issues. And we realized that it's in everyone's best interest to get an oil tank out of the ground, right? So it was deemed, while it was an unexpected and shocking expense, it was deemed that it would need to be done sometime. So better to get it done sooner rather than later, to avoid exactly what you were talking about, hopefully any leaking or anything else.
Sure. Okay.
My apologies for calling you Brenda, Bridget.
No worries at all. I should really change that DW, shouldn't I?
Just
we've been
out of
talking long enough,
curiosity,
I know.
is there a replacement oil tank being installed somewhere else?
The new oil tank has already been installed inside the home.
Okay.
A much smaller tank and inside.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And so you said if the soil is determined to be contaminated, it's put back into the hole, and then will be decontaminated later somehow?
Yeah, well, you don't want to leave a soil pile out. You know, that would be a decision that have to be made once the determination is made. Like they might leave the soil pile on the poly while they sample it to see if it has to go off site or not. But the DEP, or the Massachusetts contingency plan, has contamination levels, you know, for which you can put back into the ground, or what has to be go off site, or, you know, activity limitations, things like that. But at the point, you know, we have to go forward as though there was no contamination. There's been no, as far as I know, there's been no issues with missing fuel oil, or, you know, no inventory discrepancies.
That's correct.
Oh, really? They'd make that, that's a good check, I guess. I mean, I'm a little more concerned than usual because I'm thinking it's sitting in groundwater. I mean, from the proximity of the wetlands.
Okay.
Some of this simply won't be determined until Commonwealth Tank pulls it
Yep.
out. And
No, I
then-
understand. And those guys are licensed to kind of
Exactly. They're-
watch over this process.
Yeah, they have LSPs on call.
Okay, I see that the homeowner has his hand raised and also Brian. So I'm thinking we should give the homeowner a chance to have what he wants to say, and then we'll take questions from Brian.
Kevin is muted.
He should be able to unmute himself and turn on his video if he wants.
I think he had his hand raised because he wasn't showing in the
Okay, I lowered his hand. If Kevin wants to say something later, just raise your hand again.
Okay, Brian, what do you want to say?
I wanted to talk to the erosion control, to the idea of a mulch sock. I think you should be planning on putting it in for sure, because that way it's already in place in case there's a problem either being there needs to be a soil sample taken or something else. So I think you should just plan on putting it in anyway. And if you're lucky, then it wasn't needed, but to have it there just because.
And I absolutely agree. I wrote it in as though it was the plan to do it. It was the conservation agent who said that they would make all those determinations at the site, site walk. And I don't see how they want it in there, you know.
You know how
I
that
just basically
conservation agent is.
using his verbiage
Yeah.
in my request for determination.
No, and again, I drew a yellow circle where I thought we were talking about, and I was obviously wrong.
Okay, so that was my only comment, was just to put it in the beginning. That's it.
Yeah.
Back to you, Martha.
Okay, does anybody else, either applicant or Conservation Commission members, have something they want to say? Looks like Kevin is on now.
Not sure who's doing all that. Can everyone mute? It's usually, well, it stopped. So good.
Can I ask a question?
Bridget,
Sure.
yes.
So I wasn't clear in the beginning when you said that you were no longer sure if this was in the Conservation Committee's jurisdiction. Did you mean as in theoretically it ought to be with a different department, or geographically whether or not it is called for to be looked at?
Right, geographically. See this yellow, probably should have used a different color. When I was talking before
Oh,
with Mr. Webb Engineering, I thought we were talking about this area that they were going to do the excavation for. And I said, in that area, I'm not sure it's even within our jurisdiction, but over here, this depicts where the wetland is from an aerial flyover
okay.
and a photo. So I know that this is the side of the house, but I had thought this was not.
Oh,
But there's a
oh,
100-foot buffer zone. Bridget.
Of course, we're speaking about a completely different spot now.
okay, I see. Thank you so much.
So
Sure.
it is in fact in our jurisdiction. It's less than 100 feet from the wetland.
That's what I was secretly still wondering.
Sorry,
No.
I apologize. I was going to ask Chuck why he thought it wasn't in our jurisdiction, but it appears to be that it is.
Okay.
Okay. So in order for this to take place, it's an RDA, so we would want a negative determination. And the negative determination would be based on this plan to have the mulch sock in place, the polyplastic under the soil returned, and the and extra fill brought in to bring it up to grade. Are there any other concerns, questions, or conditions that we want to put on this project?
Yeah, I'd like to make sure that, like Brian said, the erosion goes in first prior to the work starting. And then I'd like to have 72 hours notice prior to the work starting. And when it's complete, get a call to go back out and check the work.
Okay.
You'll put that in the order of conditions?
Yes, I will.
And Bridget, we just have to make sure that Comtank reads those order of conditions carefully.
How does the order of conditions come to me?
So right now it'll be sent to 494 Haverhill Street, or it can be sent to Robert Lucio over in Derry, New Hampshire, and he can send it to you. But if it's going to 494, is that fine?
That's fine. You mean mail, sent in the mail to us?
It's sent in the mail. It's sent by certified mail.
Oh, okay, sure. Then that's
Will an email go out? Will Amanda email it to us?
Yeah, I possibly. It's just mail. I prepare them and just put them here at Town Hall in the area that someone picks up and brings down and mails.
And so there is somebody receiving mail at 494 Haverhill Street?
Well, there are two homeowners who both work a lot. So when we say certified, does that mean someone must be present to sign for?
Yeah, so if you're not there, you can just take the ticket down to the post office and pick it up there.
Okay, thank you. That should be fine.
And then Bridget, ask them to scan it, and
Yeah, we both, yeah,
because obviously we have to get it to Comtank.
okay. Got it.
And-
Chuck, I just had one last question. I think everything sounds appropriate. And given the location, the proximity to that kind of outcropping of the wetlands there, it's a little bit of a unique case, I think. Like, we're not just sort of top grading with some soil here. The 2,000-gallon tank is, fairly large. So is there any soil recommendation, Chuck, like a sand mix or something, just given the area, or is it just loam? I don't know.
So it will require clean fill to go in this area, but that's the typical boilerplate. If you have a
Okay.
suggestion, that's fine. Otherwise, I think it's going to be in the 70% as original soil,
Mhm.
and then whatever the tank is that they need to fill on top, which
couple
might be
yards.
very organic. I'm sure they're putting whatever they dig out at the bottom.
Okay.
So clean fill.
And how about planting on top of that fill once it's been put in?
I think it's in, so is this, can I answer that or no?
Yes, please.
I think where it is, and Hideki can correct me, there is gravel above it.
Yeah.
And so I think we've already requested that after the clean fill, they're going to put some gravel to the side and put it back on.
Yeah.
There are two bushes. If you actually scroll down to the Google Earth map that I had, the fill for this tank is between two bushes. So they put some kind of bushes in there to the fill, I guess. So they'll probably will try to save those. You see those two? I don't know if you guys can see mine, but there's two bushes right there.
Yeah, right above the yellow blob that Chuck drew.
Yeah, they can probably remove those and try to replant them if the Hirimotos are attached to them.
Okay.
All right.
So this gravel area,
Okay, that answers my question. All right, we have a lot on our plate. Are there any more questions? Carl, you've still got your hand up?
Oh, no, I just answered, did mine. No, I'm good.
Any members of the public here who have any questions, please use the reaction function and raise your hand. Okay. Seeing none, can I have a motion?
So I'll make a motion, this is Brian, make a motion for a negative determination for 494 Haverhill Street.
This is John, I'll second.
Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Carl Sacconi in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay. So you'll expect a package in the mail.
And I'm sorry, when are we talking 2 days, 3 months?
we are, it'll probably be sent out on Wednesday, and I'm not sure after that, so I would say that either the Saturday or the following week.
Fantastic, thank you.
You mean the next week?
Yes,
Thank you.
welcome.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you
thank
very
you
much.
very much. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with your
Thank you.
project.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right,
you.
27 Colburn Road is the next one. And open a public hearing on a request for determination of applicability filed by Sergey Finehouse under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL, Chapter 131, Section 40, and or the Reading
go.
Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant proposes to construct an addition, paver patio, install a dry well, site grading, and landscaping within 100 feet of a bordering vegetated wetland.
There you go.
A 12-inch diameter mulch sock will be placed at the limit of work. No work is to take place within 50 feet of the wetland. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at the Town Hall Conservation Office, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, Mass. 01867, and on the Conservation Division page under the project by year, Assessor's Map 39, Lot 56, RCC file number 2022-17. Okay, 27 Colburn. All right, Chuck, have you let them in?
Well, I let Jack in, so I'm not sure if it's only Jack or
It's only me.
others.
It's only me, I think, Chuck.
Okay. Let me get the plan going, and so it's Jack Sullivan. You'll introduce yourself, right, Jack, for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
screen? Okay, here's the plan. Here we go.
Great. Am I set to go, Chuck?
Yes, please.
Okay. For the record, my name's Jack Sullivan. I'm owner of the Sullivan Engineering Group. I'm here tonight representing the owner for number 27 Colburn Road. It is, Martha stated in the introduction, this is an existing single-family home. They're proposing addition off the left side of the house into the rear of the house. Off the existing house now, there's a deck that will be removed. There's a concrete pad and a set of steps to the deck that will be removed. There's also a retaining wall that's outside the 100-foot buffer zone, but that's going to be removed as well. And a portion of the existing driveway falls within the 100-foot buffer zone. That will be removed as well, and that area will be loamed and seeded. So with this lot, the wetland falls off-site to the rear of the property. The bordering vegetated wetland is off the property. The 25-foot buffer zone is off the property. And the 35-foot no structures zone just comes on to the tail end of the property. As stated, there's no work within 50 feet of the wetland. There's no trees to be cut. as some mitigation, we're looking to collect what do I have going in there? I have
1,000 gallon.
Yep, I got 1,000-gallon dry well with 12 inches of stone surrounding. That'll collect the addition roof area, so there's roof drains that will tie into that. Additionally, it'll be collecting, the driveway will pitch back to the house. The driveway, as I stated, is outside the 100-foot buffer zone, but there'll be a trench drain, and that'll be drained back to that dry well as well. So twofold, we collect some of the roof area and we collect the driveway runoff.
So, Jack, can you combine those? Roof runoff is clean, driveway needs pre-treatment.
Yep, I probably should put some pre-treatment on it. That's a good call, Chuck. I should put some sort of pre-treatment structure in line from the trench drain to the dry well.
Okay.
And that about does it. They are proposing a paver patio 12 by 12 in the back. Yep, right in that area. And the rest of the area within the limit of work would just be, right now it's grassed. It'll just be reloamed and reseeded in the backyard. And I'll turn it over to the commission for any questions you might have.
I see at the top of the plot plan, just out of the view right now, you've got square footage. I don't see any place where you've accounted for all the impervious surface that you're taking away, like the driveway and the deck and the concrete pad. Does that really matter?
Not in this case, because we're not in the Aquifer Protection District.
Okay.
We're not within a riverfront area. I do, above where the site plan is, I do a % building coverage on the house and the addition, but that's for zoning compliance to show that we're under 25%. But yeah, typically if I was in the Aquifer District or if this was a riverfront property, I would want to quantify, the amount of impervious removed, the amount added, but in this case, it wouldn't apply.
Okay, thanks. All right, so I think we can go through this relatively quickly because it's so far from the wetland. But are there any questions from members of the commission? I don't see any. Okay. Chuck, do you have anything you needed to ask?
No, I don't have any questions outside of, the notice or the determination that we sent out to you for this. It'll require 72 hours notice. And then I'd like to get a construction schedule, which I don't usually ask for RDAs, but it would be good to get it on this one here.
I can have the builder put together a construction schedule for you, Chuck.
Are there any members of the public that have comments or questions on this?
Just go to the reactions tab and open that and then click the raise hands function.
Okay. All
Seeing
right.
none?
Yeah, and I think it looks like it's pretty straightforward. It's far enough away and you've got the stormwater control, you've got the erosion control.
Infiltration.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Stormwater.
Yep.
Dry well infiltration. So are we good? Anybody have any last questions or comments? That's amazingly fast. Okay, can we have a motion?
This is Brian. I'll make a motion for a negative determination for 27 Colburn.
This is John. I'll second.
Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Carl Sacconi in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay.
Jack, is that a personal record?
I was just going to say, that was fast.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Jack,
everyone.
yeah.
All right.
I know what you want on the plan, so I tried to.
I was
provide-
gonna say, yeah.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Yep. All right.
All right, good night.
Okay.
78 Whittier, which is final, which is going to continue our discussion about the request for determination of applicability.
Why did I think they were going to be later on the agenda? Okay, 78 Whittier.
I have it
Um,
as number 8. So I
okay.
hope I'm right. Yeah.
I thought they were in old new business, but fine. Here we are. Okay, 78 Whittier, we went out, we saw the swing set, we saw the bushes that they had planted. And they're looking for an approval of certificate of compliance. Anybody from the commission have comments on this situation? Okay, and I guess, no,
Hold on. Just let someone in. Okay. So now we have probably the 2 homeowners in the meeting at this point.
those are the 2 McColgans.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, they just.
So let me put the plan up and just to remind everybody what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So Ed, are you there? I don't think I hear Ed.
Did you give them permission to unmute?
Yes, I did. They have all the permission. I'll ask them to unmute too.
Okay.
All right, so we can just continue on. So there was some discussion about the swing set, and I think that the chair had a condition regarding the swing set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to suggest that I would think that within 10 years that their children would be old enough that they don't really need the swing set anymore. So I was going to suggest that we approve the certificate of conditions, but say that they should remove the swing set within 10 years. Or if they are going to sell the house, they should remove the swing set. And when they remove the swing set, restore that area to lawn, take up the boards that frame the mulch area around the swing set and just make it into lawn. So that's my one proposal. Other than that, I think we can approve this certificate of conditions.
Is that acceptable? I see that you're unmuted. I don't know which McColgan and this is. Ed? Nope, you got nothing.
Okay, and what about members of the commission? Does that sound like a reasonable situation?
Sounds good to me.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. When we were there on the site visit, it was obvious that that back part of the property is still pretty wet. It's,
Yeah, it would be good to get an agreement on that from the homeowner. So if they may be having audio difficulty, so if you approve it and I email Ed just ask for his, with that condition.
okay, well, if they are able to hear us and they could give us a thumbs up, oh, look, we got an applause. There we go. Okay.
Okay.
So it sounds like they're okay with it. Okay. So
I got an email right now and Ed is saying that's fine. So we're good to go.
all right, so can I have a motion to approve the certificate of conditions with the stipulation to remove the swing set within either 10 years or prior to selling the house?
This is Brian. I'll make a motion to approve the certificate for 78 Whittier with the conditions stated by the chair.
Do we have a second?
This is John, I'll second.
Brian Bowe in favor?
John Sullivan in favor.
Carl Sacconi in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay, that's taken care of. All right, number
Great.
9 is 1153 Main Street. Open the public hearing on a notice of intent filed by Darlene Zacchino Stoddard pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant proposes to construct a 24-foot by 25-foot detached garage within the buffer zones to a bordering vegetated wetland. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at Town Hall, etc. And the location is 1153 Main Street, Assessor's Map 45, Lot 41. DEP file number has not yet been issued. Okay. So if we have no file number, we will not be able to close this hearing today, but we can at least open the hearing and have a conversation about it. And I see Mary's iPad has been let in. Are you the homeowner?
No, my name is Mary Trudeau, and I'm a wetlands consultant that Darlene Stoddard has hired to help her get a permit for a detached garage on her property. I think that you've done a pretty good job of summarizing the project in your introduction. I would like to add a couple of facts that the wetlands on this property were delineated by Bill Manuel. And if you've been out to the site or looked at some of the supporting information that I gave you, you'll notice that a fairly significant portion of the lawn area at the north end of the site is included in Bill's wetlands delineation. That there's a small intermittently flowing stream that runs kind of parallel to the northern property line and then it goes underneath Main Street. But the bulk of the wetlands vegetation is right along the stream channel, and the hydric soils are what Bill had pulled into the delineation throughout the lawn area. The garage that Mrs. Stoddard is interested in installing is located 50 feet from the edge of the wetland. So that we meet your general performance standard for structures being outside of the, I believe it's 35-foot zone. And if you've been out to the site, you'll notice that the driveway is configured and has been configured for quite a period of time to accommodate a garage in this location. That it looks like they had planned on this at some point in the future, never built it. There's an existing small retaining wall to the north of this proposed location that actually appears like it may have been part of an old structure in the past. Right now, it just acts to, it's a landscaping feature, I think you'd say. In any case, the garage that we're proposing will not have a full foundation. It will just have a footing at the perimeter of the building. And we have included in our notice of intent filing a description of a 12-inch Filtrex tube, which is filled with compost material, and we will be using that as our limit of work line. On this particular property, I think that the limit of work line would actually follow the northern edge of the driveway and wrap around to the southern or the eastern property line behind to the rear of this building. That's the way the site naturally grades out, and then the driveway would be accessible to construction vehicles. I think that's the extent of the information that I have at this time. We had talked with Chuck when I filed this about the issue about what would we be doing with runoff off the roof of this structure. And my client, Darlene Stoddard, had agreed to installing like a French drain or a gravel lined trench at the perimeter of this building. And typically this is, you know, 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot trench dug, lined with a geotextile fabric filled with clean washed stone. And then the top is wrapped in the fabric, and runoff from the roof is just allowed to directly disperse onto this trench and infiltrate into the groundwater system. She would prefer not to install a tank for this structure. And I think that with the limitations of the hydric soils, that we would have an issue with groundwater if we went too deep with a tank. So I think that her proposal for a stone line trench is probably the most practical solution for this project.
Okay.
All right.
I just wanted to ask, like, if I trace out, which I'm just having a lot of fun tonight doing this.
I know, I'm looking at that little red dot, wondering what are you doing?
Trying to be helpful, but did you say the erosion control is going to be coming down that kind of that line there?
Yes,
And
and then
then-
veer left. Yeah,
And then just
exactly.
kind of like that. Okay, okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood that. Thank you.
Yeah, because I think if it goes in front of the building, it will just get run over by vehicles. So I think wrapping the driveway is the safer way to do it.
Well, I didn't know if this retaining wall stood up out of the ground, so it only had to meet right here, or if, you know, this part's needed.
I think just as a limit of work line, it's probably a good idea to bring it back to the rear property line.
Sure.
And do we want to bring it over to meet the retaining wall at the top end of that red line? So that you don't have erosion, yeah, right in there?
Yeah, yeah, that would work fine. That would be great.
All right. Are there members of the commission with questions or comments about this project?
I have some, I don't know. I have some just typical questions to ask. Stockpile area, you might have said that, but I just wanted to note it because it's not on the plan. Do you think that's
Yeah,
going to
in
be
my
on the driveway?
In my description, I assumed that the bulk of the material would be taken off-site, that there really is only the material generated from the footing and the footprint will be taken off, and we are limited in where we could actually put it on the property. So I think that it really should leave the site. Maybe a small amount of backfill material left on the driveway for that short time.
Okay. And let's say all the material, trusses, framing material, would that go some spot on the driveway? Do you think there's enough room in that driveway for the homeowner's cars, and that material is going to be off like here or something?
Yeah, I mean, the driveway is enormous, but I think that my inclination would be to put it between the house, just to allow them to turn around in their driveway. I don't think they like to go out backwards onto Main Street.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I had.
All right, I'm looking at the wetland line being so close to the house compared to the boundary of the stream, and wondering how much that stream overflows into that lawn area. Do you have any information about how often that happens or how much of that happens?
My guess, I only saw it this summer when we were in an extreme period of drought, so it was bone dry when I looked at it. It's a very shallow banked stream. It doesn't look like it overflows very often at all. I think it probably flows primarily in response to stormwater events, that it's flashy as opposed to something that has springs and other features along it. I suspect that the hydric soils are representative that this lot may have had more wetlands on it in the past, or the road has changed the hydrology of the area. But I think that they're more of a remnant than an active area related to the flow of the water in that stream.
Okay. I saw Brian had his hand up and it's now down. Brian, did you have something or did I take your thunder?
You got into it, but maybe I'll get into a little bit more. So we have heard various times some reports of flooding in the area, which is perhaps related to the culvert under Main Street. So we were wondering if there's any reason why we couldn't have people from the town come out to check out the culvert to ensure that there's a proper flow through there.
I don't think the Stoddards would have any issue. It's in their best interest to have the water flow. My observations of it were that it looked like it had been kept clean or clear, you know, at least this summer. I don't know what it looks like on an annual basis.
Well, I can say that that was drought conditions.
Yeah.
Some of the images that I've seen, that's no drought. I didn't see Noah there, but I think he was in the neighborhood.
I don't think Mary saw the pictures. So the neighbor at the other end of the culvert, there's a couple of houses there's about 6 inches of water every time it rains, and the town is not just asking to look at it. They would like to have access to do something with this area, and possibly they have some ideas, but they want to know that if they commit some time and energy to this, that they could get access. And I guess the thought was, well, this construction project's going on, you know, getting in there and working on it wouldn't cause any more damage. Maybe in the winter time when the ground's frozen also.
Yeah, I can certainly talk to Mrs. Stoddard, but I can't see why she would object, and no conversations I've had with her would seem to imply that she has any issues with, you know, access on her property.
Okay. Yeah, that would be great. I mean, you have to come back to our next meeting anyways, and maybe they can get the answer by then. Any other
Oh, that
follow
was
up with
it.
that?
And I was going to suggest that the next meeting anyway, because they're coming back. So that's great.
Yeah, I'll bring it up with her. I don't think it's a problem though.
Okay, back to you, Martha.
You mentioned the stone drip trench around the garage. How many sides of the garage would that drip trench be?
3, because
3.
the front will match up very closely to the existing pavement.
Okay.
So what type, you don't know what type of roof it is, but I'm just wondering if it's just like a pitched roof, like a gable, you wouldn't need it in the back. It would only be the 2 sides where the gutters would typically go. So 3 at the most, 2 if it's a pitched roof.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to have the overflow.
Oh, you think
You
it,
know,
yeah, back
in a
here?
heavy storm event, you may be glad to have that extra trench, but I think you're correct that 3 is at the most that you would want.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is this a 1-story garage?
I believe it is. I will check on that for you, but it's my impression it's just a garage.
All right. And 24 feet wide strikes me as a 2-car garage.
It's exactly a 2-car garage. I think the 25 is to just give them a tiny little bit more room, but typically a 24 by 24 garage is considered a 2-car garage.
Okay. All right. That gives me a sense of scale for this. All right. I guess the only other question I have is, do we want to see any sort of plantings or anything? Thinking about this lawn right along the stream, the wetland line is so far back. Chuck, do you have any advice on that?
Yeah, I think Darlene Stoddard would, maybe if she comes to the next meeting, or Mary could talk to her. She seems to like the trees and plants and shrubs, and maybe there's a spot on the lawn near the wetlands where a couple of plants or shrubs could go in.
Yeah, I'll bring it up with her and we'll come up with something.
Yeah, I think she did get a permit to remove a couple of dead trees this year. So even if she wanted to replace one of those, which she didn't have to because they were dead, but now there's an opportunity to do some replacement. But even if she put something in for those trees, just maybe some replacement planting for the proposed garage would be good.
Yeah, I'll bring that up with her and we'll have an answer for you at the next meeting.
Okay. Is there anybody else on the commission with questions or comments? All right, can we take down the plot plan and see if there's any members of the public who want to raise hand? Looks like there is somebody with a hand symbol. Mufadal Bagat. Can we let that person unmute?
It's funny because I'm not seeing that, but I will unmute that
Oh, it
person.
went away. Oh, maybe it was just my, sorry, it was my cursor. My cursor was looking like a hand when it was on top of somebody's picture. Oops. Okay, so any members of the public here do a raised hand symbol of some sort? No? Okay. All right, since we can't close tonight because we have no DEP file number, can I have a motion to continue to the January 11th meeting?
I'll
Can-
do that, but first we should get agreement from the applicant that that's okay.
Oh, please, I would request a continuance until your January 11th meeting to allow us to get a file number and come back to you with several pieces of information.
Okay, in that case, this is Brian. I make a motion to continue this until January 11th.
This is John, I second.
And before we vote, Chuck, did you have something you wanted to say?
Brian said what I was going to ask.
Okay, fine. Okay, please vote.
Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Carl, you need to unmute and vote.
Carl Scone in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Mary.
I will talk to them.
Yep.
Okay, have a good night.
You too. Bye now.
Bye.
All right. And moving right along, I see it as
Lot 4 Grove Street.
Lot 4 Grove Street discussion. So I'm going to let in Josh Latham. And I thought, yeah, Guy Manganello. Okay, Josh is on. Anyone else with you, Josh, tonight? Or is that you and Guy? Is everyone?
Just Guy and I myself.
Okay.
Great. Well, good evening. Thank you for hearing us tonight. You may recall this property. It was originally the 5 lots created by the Meadowbrook Golf Club off of Grove Street. As you may recall also, one of those lots, lot 5, was conveyed to the town. We're here before you tonight because as you may also recall, part of this property is located within the estimated priority habitat of the blue spotted salamander. Since my client acquired the property, they've been working with Mass Wildlife and their engineers to work on the idea of where they can build within these lots and to come up with a proposal that would allow for a conservation restriction on lot 4. This was as a result of vetting with our contact at Mass Wildlife. We did receive a letter determination from Mass Wildlife on November 30th. Agreeing that there would be no take based on the proposed plot plan that we had shown for the development of the 4 lots. We've submitted that package to the commission. And the reason we're here now is that we do have the conservation restriction. It's an ugly template. It is the template that the state requires us to use. I think it's a little more cumbersome than it needs to be. We tried to limit our comments as we were working on it with Mass Wildlife. I admit a lot of it does not seem particularly relevant here, but we also didn't want to bloody up a document with Mass Wildlife and cause any kind of delay on their end. I've looked at the comments that Chuck had sent over today. We have absolutely no opposition to them. Some of them are ones that we've had on other projects, but I really don't have any opposition here. And Guy can back up the idea that we're more than happy to accept all those comments. Really, where do we go from here is as a conservation restriction, the town does need to approve it, both the commission accepting that you would act as the grantee, the holder of this restriction, and then it would go to the select board to also be approved. And then from there, we would submit to the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs for final review and approval. That process takes about a year is what we're being told right now. So the way Mass Wildlife deals with it is that they have us finalize the restriction with the town. We then record a declaration of restriction, which is just a parties between the owner and Mass Wildlife saying that the lot is restricted until the conservation restriction is approved. And then when the conservation restriction is approved, it is recorded and it supplants the declaration of restriction. Again, a bit of a cumbersome process, but that's how they deal with it, knowing that it takes over a year right now for the executive office to make their final review. So we're here tonight to, I guess, talk with you and answer any questions we can about the conservation restriction.
I don't know who's going first. Josh, I was wondering, so you're putting in this declaration of restriction. Does that need any details in it? I mean, do we have to suffer through saying that no herbicides and all this go into this declaration, or is it simply good enough to say, to know that that's out there, and we don't have to change that at all, and we'll have an opportunity to craft something, and that's absolutely 100% required. So like all this work that we just did, looking at this, really wasn't needed, and we don't need to get down to yes at this point?
Yeah, I think the best way to answer it is the declaration of restriction. It's just an interim measure until we get to the CR final approval. And we can't record the declaration until this commission and the select board have both agreed that the conservation restriction is in a satisfactory form and you've signed it, you're accepting it. And it's then just waiting for state level approval. And what the state's looking at is simply, is this protecting a public interest? Well, I think that's a hard argument for the state to say that we're not protecting a public interest when it's designated priority habitat for a blue spotted salamander. So I would think it's a pro forma thing once the town has agreed to accept the restriction, but we're happy to dive into the restriction as the declaration of restriction as much as you'd like and make any changes you want. For us, in our eyes, it's just getting us to a CR at the end of the day.
Sure. So it sounds like you need the Conservation Commission and the Select Board to really have that CR in an almost finalized position. And at that point, because we have to sign it, and so we wouldn't be signing something that wasn't almost complete or complete.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Chuck. It really, that final step from our perspective is we have to submit through the online portal the signed conservation restriction, proof of the recorded plan, proof of the recorded letter from Mass Wildlife, and proof of the recorded declaration of restriction. And that's what triggers the ability to move forward on development of the other lots.
Yeah, so I already had the commission look at this, and we got comments back. There might be more comments tonight, but also talked to Fidel, and Ivrea is waiting for, our comments and to look this over. But somebody has to incorporate those comments into that draft that I sent back to you. So I would, is the step that you take that on and you make those changes, or do we send it the way it is to Ivrea? How does that work?
Sure, I'm happy to do so, and I'm happy to work from this draft as well. I know I've said the word cumbersome quite a bit because that's really what it is. They require we use a template, which requires a lot of edits, but I didn't want to send you the template without showing all the edits that we had made to it to this point. And certainly every time somebody reviews it, it gets new colors and new layers to it. I think maybe what would be the safest is I would copy you, Chuck. I'd do a clean version and I would include the bloody version, and I'd send both over to Ivrea, and then we can work from there.
Okay.
Brian?
Yeah, I have one question, Josh. So I'm not familiar with this declaration. So how binding is this for that interim year before the CR is official? So what's the state during that time?
So the declaration of restriction, it's going to protect the exact same area as the conservation restriction would. I think the best way to describe it is it was Mass Wildlife's recognition of the delay in natural bureaucracy of getting a full CR approved under statutory law, but they realized that they were causing projects to get delayed 1 and 2 years for something they knew was going to get approved. So the declaration of restriction is an in perpetuity restriction, probably almost as good as a conservation restriction, but it doesn't meet the statutory requirements. So it becomes more like a private restriction that we've imposed on our land. And then the conservation restriction becomes an in perpetuity statutory restriction. It's just a higher level.
Okay, but during that time period, the same conditions and everything stand.
That's right. Yeah, we cannot touch anywhere within the protected area. It simply allows us to go ahead and pull building permits on the outside, the area outside of the protected area, and we still have to comply with all the same geographic area, the boundaries that we cannot touch within that conservation area.
Okay, thank you. Martha?
Anybody else on the commission with questions about this? I think my biggest concern is that we haven't had much time to look at it, and you know, it's come in quite recently to the members of the commission from Chuck. So I don't know whether John and Carl have really had a chance to read this over thoroughly. So is this something we need to vote on today to get things moving forward, or can we have a chance to look at it again and vote on it at our next meeting?
My impression, Martha, is really that we need to come back to you to actually vote to sign it. So you're not being compelled to do anything tonight. It's more, if this was a question and answer session, and hoping that you would be willing to push this next to town council level so we can start that process. And it would be a very deliberate process. Certainly, I know that I'd be speaking with town council and that Chuck would be involved, and then I'd come back before you. So I think there would be a significant opportunity to vet this.
Okay. And I see Chuck has put up the plot plan of this proposed conservation restriction area, which it looks like it's covering about 3/4 of the property for that proposed house on lot 4.
It's exactly correct. It's about 14,900 square feet, a little more than that.
And that makes that house a much smaller house than the ones on lots 1, 2, and 3.
It does. It does. It requires a much smaller buildable area. You know, a little bit more creativity in that spot, but it allows for the project to move forward. And we actually intentionally went with Mass Wildlife and expanded the protected area just to try to make this a simpler determination.
Right. And it needs to be said that Mass Wildlife also looked at all 4 lots and put a restriction only on one. So you're not going to see it on 3, 2, and 1. So it's
Right.
just lot 4 that got the bulk of this conservation restriction. So I guess in a way it's more palatable that way. So I like what Josh had said. I don't know if others want to review the conservation restriction, but the process that Josh laid out about incorporating the comments and providing a clean copy and that marked up copy to Ivrea, I think that we would need to agree to let him do that tonight. That's what we want to do if it's possible. I feel like I've looked at what I sent Josh enough, and I don't have any more comments. I'm not saying I won't when I talk to Ivrea or when I look at, you know, this again, when it, you know, because you get just a different perspective. But all in all, it was just some of the things that we don't allow in town had to be taken out of there. And I didn't think there would be an issue. So what say others on the commission?
Just to say, I haven't had a chance to review it in much more detail, to Martha's point. So,
Okay,
So you'll have an opportunity. Yeah, I don't want to get on the other side of this too much, but there was little time to. I think I got it last Thursday, or something like that. Sent to the commission, asked for comments before, I don't know, Tuesday at 1. And so I know that a lot of you guys work and whatnot. But on the other hand, I think we're running out of time. I think we want to be sensitive to all the work that guys put into this project and the opportunity for us to comment on Ivria's discussion with Josh and that document. So we sign before the select board. So there's that opportunity to look it over. And Carl, you can certainly make comments on the document now, and I can get those right over to Josh and Ivria at any time those come up or come through. And that's for anybody else also.
Okay.
And I can commit, I mean, I will come back at the next meeting that you'd like to have here, and I'm happy to go through it and answer any questions. And certainly, so there's certainly a matter of, I think a few weeks before we go to the next step of this with Ivria's comments and approval for the commission to make a decision.
So our next meeting is almost a month from now. So if we agree tonight to send it to Ivria for her to be looking it over, members of this commission can also be looking it over and pass on to Chuck any more comments or questions that we might have that she could incorporate into it. And then we'll get the finished product back well before the January 11th meeting. So we'll have more time to look at it.
Yeah. And I'm very sure that Ivria will give me a call and I'll be able to go over it with her. And she seems to be very accommodating in that sense. So I think that we'll be at a point, as long as there's enough time before the meeting for the commission to look at it. And then, with these volunteer groups, I always feel like that's at least a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, something like that. I know, John, do you have, John Sullivan, do you have anything to say? I'd just like to know that we have the consensus of the commission.
Yeah, I'm in agreement.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Sounds like we have a plan then. And do we need to make a motion and a vote, or is this just a discussion?
No, I don't think it needs a vote. I think that we can just approve Josh making the changes and incorporating those into a clean copy and sending it just like we said.
Mhm.
So everyone agree?
Sounds good.
All
Thank you
right.
very much for your time. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Okay, so this is amazing. This is a meeting that I thought was going to be.
Yeah, you were telling me midnight, Chuck. It's
No.
9:39.
I'm like the coach. We have Jacob here, and I think that we have a couple of things left that's on the agenda. So in the violations, we wanted to talk about 54 Eastway and
You mean 44 Eastway?
oh, 44 Eastway. Sorry about that.
And who is Jacob and why is he here?
Well, let's just let him into the meeting and ask. Hi, Jacob.
Hi, sorry about that. So I'm the son of the owner of 1152. So I wanted to sit in and listen to 1153's conversation.
Ah.
Oh, okay.
Glad to have you.
Yeah, I was just I left my laptop open to listen to everything. So we were all set. We just wanted to get an ear on how the conversation was gonna go.
Okay, and you did hear it's been continued to the next meeting on January 11th?
Yes, yeah,
So
we
you probably want to come to that meeting as well.
we're planning on it.
And Jacob, what's your last name?
Hughes,
Okay.
Hughes.
Yeah, so I think we're moving forward with, I think the questions that about the drainage channel and getting in there were asked. We just need to find out what comes about with those answers. Our next meeting's really a month away, but no, I appreciate you coming in and speaking up. And I was also interested which, you know, who you were and what property you represent. So thanks.
Yeah, yeah, sorry about that. I wasn't sure if you could see our last names or not.
Nope,
No, okay.
it just
Yeah,
says
no,
Jacob.
that was just all we wanted to do was just seeing how it was gonna go and if there was gonna be further meetings. So we're all set on my side.
Yeah, no, there's no notice at the next meeting. You just have to make your own
Just
note
pop
for
in.
that. So we only noticed the first meeting. So that legal notice that you got won't be repeated again for the January 11th meeting. You just have to look for, go to the town website and watch, or go to the town website and look at the agendas for the meetings. So
Okay,
just
yeah,
that
that's what
one.
I did for tonight because I couldn't get in with just the code. So I went there and clicked on the link.
Yeah, great.
Um,
Okay,
If she
thank you.
doesn't, if she doesn't.
Sorry,
let-
my father has one question.
If she doesn't let access, what would be the next step?
Well, we should wait just to find out find out what's going on. And I think we should take that first step first, which is request it and then find out.
Yeah, because
Uh,
she needs her plans and everything.
Yeah, so she's working with a consultant, and Mary Trudeau, I've worked with a lot, so I know that she'll definitely ask the questions.
Okay.
If I get anything in the meantime, in between meetings, I'll let the commission know, and we'll let you know. Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah, we appreciate everything.
Yeah, thank you
All
very
right.
much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we're down to old new business.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start, Chuck?
I think just go 44 Eastway.
Okay. Chuck and I and Bryant went out today to knock on the door at 44 Eastway. Nobody answered, but Chuck and I took a walk through the conservation land, getting access through Lynetta Lane. And Chuck, do you want to tell what you saw compared to what it used to look like?
Sure. So I think it needs to be said that in the violation notice that we sent out to this address, that we did say that we would return on this date and review what work had taken place and then decide what we would do at that point. So like Martha said, we went out there this morning. It was 11 o'clock, and we knocked on the door and waited, and then we went in through Lynetta Lane and walked around. I did see that progress had been made on the pile of bricks, and that the golf net and kind of like driving range setup had been removed. It seemed like a lot of the leaves had been removed also, and we were down to more of a compost organic mix that hadn't quite turned into soil, but was certainly better than very loose leaves that you would sink into. It looked like there was some digging going on, and there was some digging around one of the trees to expose the basal area, maybe a couple of the trees. And the pile of bricks looked like that it had been weaned down. My recollection, there was not only a pile of red bricks, but there was a pile of something else, which I didn't have a chance to look at my pictures to find out what that was. But there's certainly less bricks, but I can't attest to how much was taken.
And you said that the shrubs had been removed as well, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of shrubs from work that was around the house on that vegetation, and that had been removed also. So a good decent amount of cleanup had been done, for sure.
Okay, but we do still have some bricks there and some cleanup left to do. Some of the trees still have their basal root area buried under soil. So what's our next step in this? I think we want to reach out again to the homeowner.
Yep. There'll be another letter, basically first thanking them for the work that's been done. and then reminding of the work that's yet to do and giving them a deadline of the end of May. So they have a decent amount of time in the spring to finish up. And making it clear that at that point, there would be no more extensions. And at that point, we would have to consider other approaches. But essentially, thanking them for what they did is the main thing.
Do
May.
the rest of the commission feel like that's the way to go?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. We have consensus.
So I just want to chime in just for a second. So it's appropriate to send a letter. I think that this, the homeowner has done a lot of work, and it was not in the best conditions because it's not spring or it's not summer, but we would want to send a letter. And I agree with that, but we probably want to update the enforcement order with those new conditions and then send that. And that would supersede the old enforcement order, and it would give us what we need for control. We don't want to go back to a letter. We've sent an enforcement order already. But I'll just update the dates. I'll pass it out to the commission. You can make comments on it, and then we can send it out. But I agree with Brian's assessment, because even though the bricks, you could probably get them loose and walk back and forth, I think that he's at a point where maybe a month and a half, with how it seems like they're working on it, they could finish it. And that would be when it starts to warm up, April and all of May. So I totally agree with that. There's plenty of time, and there would be plenty of opportunity during those months.
And so, Chuck, we're saying that there would be both an updated enforcement and a letter? Is that what we're agreeing to?
Well, I'm keeping the letter in there because you can't write thank you in an enforcement order.
No,
So
that's
if-
fine. I'm all
so-
for that. I just want to make sure that everybody is in agreement that that's the approach, the double-pronged approach, so the carrot and the stick at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, an enforcement order, maybe they should change the name someday, but it's just the tool that we have. It's the only tool that the Conservation Commission has. It's not, it's a name thing again. So,
Okay. I think that's a good plan. Okay, so, anything else? DPW monthly meeting, December 6th.
yeah, what's the update on that? Is that, so some of the update, well, Brian, were you there? Who was
Yeah.
there?
I think Brian and I were both there,
Yeah.
and I.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of
remember
looking for
what-
something. I wrote a note down that I wanted to share with the commission, but I'll look for that as you give your update. It had to do with the enforcement order, so just to make it clear. But go ahead with the update on the DPW meeting.
Martha, why don't you go ahead? That was my reemergence into society, so I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah, I don't really remember anything important to talk about. Was it having to do with the red pine? Having finished taking down all the red pines?
Yeah, that was the big topic I remember too, is the cutting in the town forest.
Okay. Was
And-
that the meeting where we were looking at a picture of the hillside by the gas line and we thought there was sand, but it turns out that's wood chips?
Well, that was a meeting with the three of us beforehand in looking at the pictures that I think Chuck took.
Okay.
But in the DPW meeting, we talked about the cutting. We talked about there being some ruts that were left over. They're going to be addressed. We talked about the fact that there was actually very little slash left. They actually did a very clean job in cleaning it up. They did leave a multi-log barrier in one of the places that Chuck wanted it to be done to kind of limit new trails being made.
Looks quite, yeah, we saw that.
Yeah.
That was,
Substantial barrier.
yeah, that was, that almost looked like, you know, some sort of battle. They had like 5 logs, you know, teed up to roll down the hill, and but it I couldn't. So that's fine. I mean that.
Yeah, I
that
mean, I actually, I got a ride in there from Mike Hannaford, the town tree warden, and he pointed that out explicitly to make sure Chuck knew that they'd paid attention to his request. And they not only paid attention, they paid attention in spades. This thing, you could hide behind it and fight the next revolution. But I think that's the main points that I can think of from that meeting. Oh, we also talked about some of the erosion at the end of Hunt.
Oh, that's right.
And Jeff from DPW, Jeff Cummings, I think it is, had some ideas for addressing it. And he and Chuck were trying to get together to perhaps look at it together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Jeff is out, and I'm only reachable by email and cell phone. So I hope you all have my cell phone number until after Christmas. So, but I thought it was a good meeting, but I do want to remind everyone that the question was asked to the DPW department, like, is there anything else we should know about in town? And I think a couple days later, some trees were cut down at Sturgis Park without us being notified about that. Yes, we gave them a order of conditions to do the pump station, but part of the requirements is that there's a pre-activity meeting before any work starts. So the trees were cut down and it was like Friday, I got an email, and I can also see phone calls on my iPad, and I got two phone calls, and one guy called back a couple of times just wondering why these healthy trees were coming down. And you have to understand, I don't know where they are. So, you know, he didn't say, hey, over by the pump station. So that would have been very helpful. But again, it just seemed, you know, something that we still continually need to work on with at these meetings.
Right. So the bottom line is that for the most part, the agenda items are introduced by Chuck, or at least the commission. And we want to get it so there's more of a two-way street with DPW, bringing up some more topics and actually informing us ahead of time so we can coordinate on things that need to be coordinated on.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, so and all in all, it's a lot better. You know, having these monthly meetings is a great thing. I want you to know that I did tell Jenna from the recreation department, and I think she started monthly meetings because I said that we were doing monthly meetings and it was working out really well. So.
And speaking of which, the next monthly meeting is January 3rd at 1 p.m. I can probably make it. Brian, are you available for that one?
I can make it, all things being equal.
Right. Okay. So why don't we both try to make it, and we'll hope that at least one of us is there, if not both of us.
Yeah.
Sure. And I would say be more vigilant because I won't be around in town during that time. So if something comes up, you guys will know about it before me. All right, if we're moving on, I just want to go back and I had written something down because I was reading it over the week, and so the difference between, so we have this enforcement order, and why do we want to keep continuing, you know, updating the enforcement order and keeping the enforcement order going, and we don't want to come back to a letter, or we don't want to give a order of conditions for something that started out as an enforcement order. Although sometimes that happens, that's more, I've seen that happen a lot. But a notices of notice of intent and an order of conditions is permission to do work. An enforcement order is a requirement to do work. And you're usually requiring work that doesn't meet the performance standards. So you got to think about it that way. I thought that was,
So it's an enforcement order requires work in order to meet the standards, right? So it's to bring it up to standard.
I guess so.
Okay. There's not much point in getting them to do some work if it's not going to remedy the situation.
Well, think of it East Way. It's likely we're not going to ask them to, like, how could you, I mean, that was a lukewarm yes, but how could you have an enforcement order or an order of condition that allowed someone to leave the majority of the fill in place?
No, I get your point. Yeah.
So it does remedy the situation because we're saying after we relinquish the enforcement order, everything's fine. And that's been dealt with and it won't be dealt with again. And therefore those that's the landscape that the next homeowner or this homeowner will deal with. And as long as it keeps it in that condition, then there's no issues.
Right.
Okay, so we have the minutes. I want to get Carl and everyone out of here.
Okay, I think we still have not seen the September 28th minutes, and that was Chuck's thing. But I did send out the November minutes, and you've got October 26th on here. I think we already approved.
Yeah,
them.
we already did those, right?
So
Looked into
did
that.
anybody get a chance to look at my November minutes, and do we want to approve those tonight?
I did look at it, and what I did not do yet is I didn't listen to the meeting. So I think I have to do that before I can officially vote on the meeting, on the minutes.
Okay, so maybe we might as well wait till next time to vote on the November minutes.
I think so.
Okay.
Did anybody else have any corrections to make, or are we good to wait? Okay, hearing
Sounds like-
none. So we'll hold off on the November, I think it was 9th or something like that, minutes, and the September 28th, we'll try to have those for the next time.
That sounds good.
Okay, so do we have anything else on our agenda, or are we ready to adjourn? Do you have an administrator's report, Chuck?
No, not tonight. Remember, I thought it was going to be 12 o'clock before we get out of here.
Okay.
So I'll take this opportunity to drive home at 10:10.
Good. Okay, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
This
at
is Brian.
10:10?
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 10:10.
Carl Ciccone, second.
Yeah, great. And just remember, Brian, you need to sign that document saying that the Mullen rule, that you can miss one meeting and still be a voting member. And so does Andy Driven.
Did you
You'll have
send
to-
that to me?
I did not. I didn't
Okay.
know you watch the meeting and then I'll send it to you.
Okay, I mean, in mind, yes. Okay.
And just, do we have anybody who's willing to do the minutes for this meeting, which turned out to be shorter than we thought?
Oh, it's short. Oh, I'll volunteer for it then.
Thank you, Brian.
All right.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that not only you have to review the video, but you have to review the minutes also.
Yes.
I think it's the minutes that are.
And happy holidays too.
Yeah. Carl, come on, enjoy it. What do you have, an 18-month-old and all that?
Yep. It will
Oh,
be
so
fun.
we're adjourned, right? Did someone say
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Yeah, we are adjourned.
Just want to make sure they cut the tape off at the right spot. Yeah, so it must be a fantastic holiday season coming up for you. They're just about ready to
Yep. And
pull the
the
tree down, themselves.
oldest is 4, so she's gonna have fun. So it will be good. I just want to get through Christmas with just with limited cold and everything and enjoy, and then we'll bring in the new year. So
Well, we're very grateful to you for being able to attend these meetings again, Carl. And
yeah, I'll try
appreciate
to.
your landscape input on the tree planting plan and things like that. That's a big help.
Yeah, I saw Chuck today too, and if all just kind of gets back to a normal, decent winter, I'll plan on trying to attend as much as I can. And thanks for it. It does seem like when I had kind of stopped, it all went down about whatever a year ago now. The meetings were just quite long, but I think you guys have been now back to a few the last couple months, and you guys are doing a really good job. I feel like of that 10 o'clock is much better. So 10 versus 11:30 is a big difference. So
Yeah, well, back at about 8:30, I was getting worried that it was gonna keep running and running and running, and then it was like, oh, these things are going through quick. We're good.
yeah, no, a little bit of luck too, but thank you for, it's good it's good to it's good to move along. So thank you. It's good.
Okay. All right.
All right,
Well,
thank
have
you.
a good vacation, everybody. Have a good Christmas, all that. And
Okay.
talk to you later.
Thanks.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
bye now, bye everyone,
Bye. Good night.
good night.